Hello, YouTube. This is Dark Tower Palaver. We always like to do a little bit of an intro for you guys. This is our podcast about Stephen King's series, Dark Tower series, as well as we cover other Stephen King stuff as well, because all things are on the Dark Tower.
All things serve the beam.
So yeah, basically with these YouTube videos, most of them are, well, everything now, hopefully future bound, that'll be changing. Everything here on YouTube is actually us recording our podcast and doing it live with a live stream with an audience here in the chat. So basically, when we start, you'll hear, like when we actually start the actual podcast here in a bit, the intro will start, and then everything past that is kind of what would be on the podcast feed. But this is just the YouTube version of that. And here is probably as we move into 2022, we'll have some more content. I think we've talked about that when a trailer drops, I'm guessing Firestarter is probably the first one that'll happen. We'll do like a reaction video of that and stuff like that, as well as we have some fun little things that we want to put together and throw in here as well for some shorter content. But generally speaking, this is our podcast, and that is the intro for it. So, and then if you're joining us live here, we do apologize. We are a little bit late. North Central Positronics is hitting as usual. So started a little bit later than we normally would. It's only like 7 minutes though, so that's not too bad. I did actually shift it to show that it was going to start 15 minutes later, but we got it sorted out sooner. So yeah, this episode we're going to be covering the Wastelands for the 11th part. We are slowly drawing down in this section of the book. This is obviously a pretty big section, and we're just getting close. We're getting really close to the end of it here. This one is called Door and Demon. So once we're done here, we'll be moving into the whole second book, because this one's divided into two big books there. So yeah, looking forward to this. I think I got this episode and one more episode in this section, and then we'll be starting book 2. So which is titled. Oops, I just clicked the wrong thing here. The book 2 is titled Lud, A Heap of Broken Images. So we are just about done with book 1, which is Jake, Fear, and a Handful of Dust. So that is what we are kind of looking at for this episode, and next we'll finish up this book. Pretty excited. We're getting into some pretty intense stuff here.
Yeah.
As they approach the speaking ring, and Jake approaches young little Eddie and wherever he might be leading him. So the other thing... and I guess we'll get into the outline of it for the whole episode here when we start the actual podcast. But we wanted to give a quick shout out. Let me pull it up here. We had a request from a relative, a wife of a listener, and she. I'll just throw up the little slide that she sent. But it is for Cody from Kansas, one of our Patreon members and longtime listeners. His wife sent their anniversary is coming up in the next couple days, so I'm not sure if he's in the chat or not. But she sent this in, and then also sent in a little message that says, "Happy anniversary, babe. It hasn't been easy, but it wouldn't be worth it with anyone else. Love, Kayla." So shout out to Cody.
Hey, he is in the chat.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Looks like mine is once again delayed from yours. I don't get that. So weird.
The host is delayed
Yeah.
more than a participant. All right.
Yeah, very weird. So, Cody, I think it's happy anniversary in a couple days, I believe. I think it was the 10th, if my memory serves, based on the message. But, yeah, so shout out from your wife that reached out to us via some, I think it was on Instagram, actually. So, happy anniversary, Cody.
Yeah, congrats. Happy anniversary.
With that coming up. So, yeah, that's always fun. It's always fun to... interact with friends and family. So we've had a few different times where, people have reached out to us. It's always fun because we get to know, certain people that listen, but it's cool to see that, I don't know.
We're still in the YouTube intro, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm gonna change my board real fast.
Oh, Peter, of course he needs to get rid of the slander off the board here. We had some technical issues, so we've been in a little bit of a helter-skelter scramble going in for to start this episode. But yeah, no problem, Cody. Definitely glad to help your wife out there, to give you a little bit of a shout out. But yeah, well, let's go ahead, and I will hit the intro while Peter's back there erasing the slander that he had up there before, that was making, just like his shirt is slanderous, a lot of slander from Peter. So we'll go ahead and hit the intro real quick and get started into the podcast proper, and yeah, diving into the rest of this book club.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, The Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And I still got to figure out a way to work that in there. Also, the extended Dark Tower universe, which is the entire King library. Yes, this is a book club episode. So just diving into the intro real quick before we get started, I want to warn you. We normally would warn you guys about spoilers, but in these episodes, we stay where we're at or before. We never jump ahead. The newer thing that we've added to the book clubs recently is we do have a spoiler section at the very end, but we will make sure you are very clear when that's about to start. So if you are listening and you're not finished with the series and you're here for spoiler free content, you will be very clearly warned when we're going to get into it. We just like to have we've been trying this out now to be able to have notes in these, because I don't know, in the roundtables we try to cover as much as we can, but there's just some stuff that we can do this podcast for 100 years and we'll never get to certain things unless we go word by word through it like a book club like we're doing here, because there's just these really small cool details that are never going to get covered necessarily, just because they're so, I don't know if you want to say obscure, but so the only way to really cover those without the constraint of spoilers is to add a spoiler section at the very end. But like I said, we'll keep that very quarantined, and we'll make sure it's safe for you if you are listening. Say if you're meandering through book 6, for instance, right now, you would not want to listen to a roundtable. That would be most unwise.
Don't use the Q word after 2020. That triggers me.
It's the perfect word, though.
It is.
But yes, then next up, if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasting. You can stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. You can find us on pretty much any podcasting service that's out there. If you want to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we would appreciate that. Next up, the show notes are at darktowerpalaver.com. We don't really have show notes for book club episodes. There's not really a lot that we could have necessarily. But if you're a new listener and you want to engage with us, there's a number of ways to do that, and Peter will get to in a second. But what we like to do is we've cultivated some questions for new listeners. We've cultivated those over the years. We actually kind of came up with them within the first little bit. We've refined them a bit over the years, but it's just kind of a way for you to introduce yourself to us as, who you are as a Stephen King fan, who you are in general, and who you are as a Dark Tower fan. You can find those over at darktowerpalaver.com. You can answer one of those. You can answer all of those. You can answer anything in between. It's more of just kind of a primer to help you with an introductory email type thing, because if you are a listener, we consider you part of our extended quartet. And as we see throughout this series, when somebody enters the quartet, which we saw in the last book a couple times, generally everyone tells at least some bit of their story. So best way to introduce yourself.
It's basically based off of our first couple episodes. That's what we did, is just kind of introduce ourselves and how we came to the tower and our story with the tower and everything. So it's so fun to hear that from anyone in the extended quartet.
Yeah, indeed. So you can find that over there at darktowerpalaver.com. And then normally if we're on a round table, any of the stuff that we cover will be in there as well. Next up, you can support the show if you want to over on Patreon, over at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. We've got a couple of different levels over there with different things such as access to the Discord server, which is a lot of fun, where we can chat between weeks and stuff. It's always fun to stab Peter in the ribs with a heartbreaking thing, all the time. You can't just do that once every couple of weeks. You got to be doing it all the time. And there's a few different things over there that you can find. That's always a lot of fun. So find that over there. And then if you want to contact us, you can do that a number of ways that Peter can let you know what those are.
Like Ted already brought up, the best way is email us. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. And then our shows are here. It's a YouTube. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications. We're pretty scheduled for most of it, but like today, we were a little bit late. So if we do have a schedule change, because we have done that before in the past with overseas fans, so that they can have a show where they can be, not 4 in the morning or wee hours of the morning with us, then that helps you with that. And then our social media is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Our Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. Instagram is darktowerpalaver, all one word, no spaces in there. And then our merchandise is available. It's tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver. You got 2 different logos. You got the hashtag Tat is terrible with the logo, and then you got the normal one with just Dark Tower Palaver. And either one of those is available on there for any number of different items.
Or my favorite, the cushion.
Yeah, you can get the cushion. You can get a T-shirt. The sticker that I have here. There's a whole T-shirts, hoodies, tank tops.
I don't know how Peter got me to put that slanderous thing on there, but
it's the people wanted it. The people demanded it. So
yeah, I don't know. I still think it's slander.
I think it's truth.
Nah.
It's been proven. We have scientific proof backing this up. That's not slander.
Oh man, like I told you before we started recording, I'm a beloved character, just like Randall Flagg.
See, now you brought it up on the podcast, so now I can legit say it. Hashtag Tat is terrible.
So then we're jumping into our Wastelands book club. We're into number 11 now. So we've gotten through the first 2 because there's basically 2 books. Each of the books has 3 chapters, and then we are basically here getting in the tail end of chapter 3 of book 1. And there, so basically the way we were looking at it here, I was just looking at it before we started recording. I think we're going to have this episode and one more will carry us through the end of this quote unquote book, the mini book within a book. And that'll bring us into the second big chapter, or book chapter, however you want to divide it or call it. So this one will be maybe a little bit longer than we would generally try to do. Mm-hmm. But I was looking at what we had left, and there was like, okay, we could either do what we normally do, but then we'd have like 2, and then like maybe one really short one. So then it would end up overlapping, and I don't like that. So we're just going to stretch this last thing, this one over 2 episodes, and cover the last bit of this here, which is. Of course, Door and Demon, which is the 3rd chapter of book 1, which is titled Jake, Fear, and a Handful of Dust. So here, so let's see. Can't remember with our calendar. So we have this one today on the 6th is this one. Yep. Then we have a round table. Then we have one more book club. So that means that we are basically going to be finishing up book 1, Jake, a Fear, and a Handful of Dust, right with the year ending. Mm-hmm. So we'll be starting into book 2, Lud. We'll be starting that into 2022. That works out nicely.
That works out really nicely. I like that.
And then we'll have one more episode in December on the 18th, which is Roundtable 114, which is our year-end bash. So yeah, like every other episode this time, book club, roundtable, and that will close us out for the year. So that's what you can be looking forward to as we move forward into November and December of 2021. And then also I just wanted to throw it out there. I got a little, I wouldn't say I got like full on sick. I think though that going on vacation to a nice tropical environment shocked my body a little bit because like I didn't go like full on sickness, but I have a little bit of congestion, but not anything terrible. But if it sounds like my voice is strange or gets strained, that's why. But it's weird. It's like not sick, but like having congestion. It's the weirdest thing because it's almost
It's so. Same thing along with Tad is that my whole family got sick over the last couple of weeks. Literally, the last time we recorded was the last day that I felt actually healthy. So basically for 2 weeks now, I've been battling just cold, cough, flu, that kind of stuff. But I still have that too.
Yeah.
So the funny thing for me is that if I walk outside, nice warm apartment because it's getting cold here in Utah a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what's happening. That's what's doing
exactly.
It to us.
Yeah. If I walk outside into the cold, I have a coughing fit, and I have like that congestion in my chest too. So both of us, we apologize, and then we also apologize. Obviously, I think Ted said it earlier for the late start. Yeah. My fault. North Central Podcastronics decided to try to take out my internet. So,
oh, those dirty bastards!
I know. How am I supposed to do show prep without the internet? I need the intrawebs.
It's true.
Yeah.
So then let's jump on in then. As I said, we are kind of here, basically the second half of this. We're starting at subchapter 18. Mm-hmm. So what we noticed as we've been diving in here recently is we just saw in the last episode, we've been seeing Roland's side and Jake's side intertwining in one single subchapter. Yep. So I found it interesting last time because I feel like King had been very good about keeping it separate, where if you were in Roland's side, it was one subchapter. If you're going to jump to Jake, it'd be the next subchapter. We finally had one cross-pollinate where they were both in the same subchapter. So things are definitely getting close and getting intense. Mm-hmm. Speaking Ring is coming up in the distance for the folks on Roland's side, and Jake is going into Co-op City.
Yeah.
To find a boy that he dreamt about, which we've kind of put together now because of some stuff that it is going to be Eddie, but I don't think Jake necessarily knows that. Not that he even knows who Eddie is.
No, he doesn't know who Eddie is, right?
But yeah, so he's gone looking for him, and that is where we leave off as we jump in here into subchapter 18. Why don't you go ahead and get us started here?
Yeah, right off the bat, half a mile back the way they had come, Eddie sat cross-legged in the middle of the great road with his unfinished key in one hand, watching the sky. He glanced down the road, saw the spark of the fire, and knew exactly what Roland was doing and why. Then he turned his gaze to the sky again. He had never felt so lonely and so afraid.
Yeah, so Eddie's playing it a little bit. He's distancing himself a bit here.
Yep.
Kind of centering himself. Roland's in the distance, setting up camp. And Eddie is, he's still struggling with his, we've been seeing a lot of mental illness stuff over the last little number of episodes. And certainly with Eddie, it's the, I don't know, like he's got almost an enemy inside of himself. And some of that is his life growing up with Henry, but some of it is just himself, his own neuroses and stuff. So he's trying to overcome that because he is in a spot now where it seems that Jake's life or death, which then would obviously show Roland's madness or sanity, is all relying on something for Eddie to do here. So a lot of pressure. I don't know if he's necessarily had this kind of pressure yet.
Yeah.
There was some pressure in book 2 for him, but all that stuff was so on the cuff that I don't think he ever had time to think about it.
No.
I think he kind of had to just do like what he needed to do. This, though, it's like, this is a little bit different. This is not like, oh, shit, I just suddenly appeared on a stage in front of 10,000 people and I have to talk. No, this is like, now you know that talk is coming and you've got to prepare for it. And that's a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you see with, like, war movies and the stories that come out of wars with, like, actual veterans talking. We see it because we've talked about it before. We're huge fans of Band of Brothers, that there's been soldiers who have gone from one fight to another fight to another fight, but then when they get pulled back, that's when they have the break.
Yeah.
That's when they break down. It's because then at that point they're not running from one fight to another. That's kind of what Eddie was doing in book 2. It was just, oh my God, there's a guy in my brain. Oh my God, I'm going to get caught. Oh my God, I got to deal with Balazar. Oh my God, I have to deal with withdrawals. Oh my God, I have this crazy psycho bitch now that I love. The other half of it.
And Roland's dying, and there's lobstrosities.
Run up and down the beach, and I got to stay awake, even though I just ran up and down the beach. You know, whatever. It was going nonstop in book 2, but now, there's the halftime break before the second half of the big game. Kind of thing. There's time to think, and that's where Eddie's at right now.
And you know what I think is funny is how much harder this is for him. Like Susanna had this same thing happen, but for her it took like less than a page. Yeah. Because it was, Susanna, you got to take the shot against this bear, or it's going to eat Eddie. And like her, she had her doubts there for a moment, but then it was like quickly, whatever, she did it, she pulled the trigger and she won. Like, but with Eddie, because he has all this built-in like trauma, he can't, like, I don't know, she's more capable of like just getting over it quickly, whereas he actually, there's a lot more, baggage. It's the difference between the two characters. And I think that's what I love about like King's writing here is that he is writing them differently. He isn't doing it this thing where it's like super formulaic, where like they both have, similar like amount of struggles and stuff. Like they both have different struggles, but in different ways. But like this struggle it's way different for her than it was for him. For her, it was a momentary thing, and she got over it. And Roland kind of saw that in her, where he's like, she's already got more of a gunslinger in her. She's almost more along, because obviously she's been through a lot more, in her life. So she kind of has to have that metal in her that maybe Eddie hasn't had.
Well, to be fair, let's also point out that Susanna's was a split-second decision. She had to take the shot. She had to go. There was no wait time. It's not like anyone came to her 2 weeks ahead of time and was like, hey, by the way, on Friday next, you're going to have to take a shot that's going to either determine whether or not your husband lives or dies.
Yeah.
By the way, you got to just think about that. That's what Eddie's dealing with is, yes, Eddie could finish the key. Eddie could have finished the key a while ago.
Yeah.
But the thing is that what you're talking about, the stuff that he's going through, is playing a part in what's dragging it out. But there's a big difference between the one that comes to my mind is something I read parenting wise, is that don't tell your kid you're going to the doctor. Let them learn when they get there.
Yeah.
Because if they sit there stewing about it for days or the car ride over, it's worse.
Yeah.
Than when they get there. That's one defense I will say for Eddie, but you're absolutely right. But it still plays a part. He could have finished the key already.
True, and I will say, and I'm only speaking this because I know we're going to cover it in this episode. A little bit later, we're going to have a moment where, exactly like you said, Susanna's told up front, like, you're going to have to do something that's going to either save Eddie's life or cause his death.
Oh, you're talking about that one.
No, I'm adding that to it. That,
okay.
You have the bear. She kind of had the moment of doubt, but then immediately let go of it. Like, she didn't continually fight Roland. No, you're taking the fucking shot. She just took it and did the, took the shot.
She did what had to be done.
Yeah, and then like a little bit later in this section that we're going to talk about, she has another thing, just like you're saying, that she has a little bit more prep time, and again, you see that she handles, and we'll get to it in a little while, but she does handle it better because again, there's a difference of the characters, and I just think that's the richness of King's writing is that they are so distinct that I think a lesser writer, maybe they wouldn't have as much variance between them, and I love seeing that variance, because
you've seen that in shows where it's, oh, okay, this character has the exact same problem. Hey, this seems familiar. Didn't we do this in season 2? We're just doing it with character B now instead of character A.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead was bad about that.
Yeah.
There was always seems like there was one character who was on the verge of breaking because they lost someone, and it was just rinse and repeat. Okay, well, Tad did it, now let's do it with Peter. Okay, Peter did it, now let's do it with it just no.
Yeah. Oh, it's like the big one I always think of is in a lot of sitcoms is the will they, won't they. That's been done. That's been
relationship
done.
One.
That's been done how many times with how many different couples and how many different shows. I mean, it seems to work, but it's like when you think about it critically, you're like, literally, this is the same fucking storyline, and it's always dragged over multiple seasons, and it's usually the two of the closer to main characters of the show. But it's like still it happens constantly, and I don't see many people complain about it. But when you really think about it critically, it's like, man, I've seen this like a million times, and I just love that King's not doing that. He's giving he's giving very, very different characters with different struggles. And I mean, in a lot of ways, Susanna's struggles we're seeing a lot more in book 2. Eddie didn't have as much. He had some, but once, just like you said, he was so on the edge that he didn't have the time to have the same like struggles like we had. Susanna did, though. She had the struggles of Detta and Odetta and dealing with all that stuff, and so it's just kind of cool to see.
It's the difference between being told you're going to have a test in class 3 weeks in advance and being given a pop quiz on the stuff that you covered.
Yeah, exactly.
That's that comes to mind here with Eddie.
Yeah. So then a little bit further down here, it says the boy is close now. He thought he knew where Jake was and what he was about to do, and it filled him with silent wonder. Susanna had come from 1963. Eddie had come from 1987. Between them, Jake, trying to come over, trying to be born. Again, Eddie's kind of piecing some of this together. He's the only one that has some of this information in his own memory banks, but he kind of understands what might be happening, and it is filling him with wonder because it's quite the. And I love this because like this is a way for King to build the tension, because like he's only giving us a small little hint here, what he's about to do, and it fills him with silent wonder. It fills Eddie with silent wonder to think about it. So it just makes you like you don't fully know what we're talking about here, but it's just a small bit. It always reminds me, one of my favorite like builds in film is to Hannibal Lecter. And you watch that Silence of the Lambs, and like the first 10, 15 minutes is doing nothing but hyping you up to Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
All these people talking about him, warning about him, and it just builds and builds and builds.
You don't want him in your head and everything.
To the point where when you finally get there, it's just like, whoa, dude! Like you're terrified of him to the point where Anthony Hopkins can just play him as a super polite and cordial person, because you've been built up from 3 or 4 different characters telling Clarice about him that I just love that build. And I think this is kind of the same thing. King's just here's one little bit, but then as we go here, we're going to see he just keeps building and building towards what we're going to be moving towards. And first time I'm reading this, I don't necessarily understand that, but because I remember just thinking he knows what he's about to do. I don't know what the fuck he's about to do. Eddie seems to, but King hasn't told us yet. We know he's looking for basically Eddie, but we don't know anything else. So I definitely didn't realize it then, but I do looking at it now, where it's kind of cool to see how King builds.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that's the mark of a really good storyteller, is where you build to something.
Yeah,
we both have had issues with shows and movies where it's all of a sudden they throw a problem at a character, and it's well, there was no build up for that.
Yeah,
where's the the build?
Yeah,
a lot of time, and it goes to show with Stephen King, because the building, whether it's a problem, whether it's a plot line, even not something that's necessarily drama, but even just a plot line.
Yeah,
them finding the beam.
Yeah,
building to that. And everything. If they'd just been oh, this is the way to go, that would have been boring. No one would talk about it. But them building up, and Shardik and the portals and everything, him building, Stephen King's the best builder when it comes to novels. And that's what makes a good story, is you build towards something.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just do it with just problems either. He does it with everything across his novels, and I love it.
And this is
that's
pretty
a perfect
unique
example.
And this is unique too, because this is also King doing a series.
Yeah.
Up until the last number of years, I'd say maybe the last decade, how many sequels had King ever done outside of The Dark Tower? Because yes, since 2013, he did Doctor Sleep, which was a sequel,
right?
And even that was unprecedented. It's holy shit, he's doing a sequel to The Shining.
Yeah.
Then the Mercedes trilogy. He's done a lot recently, but it's when you look at his older pantheon of when you just rewind to the year 2000, just as an arbitrary pick, and you hadn't even finished his series yet. It's look through his bibliography and look at how many times has he actually done more than one book. A lot of times he would just jump from one book to the next, he has all this great building in all these books, but it's very rare to actually see him come back to a story more than once. And Dark Tower was the big outlier, where it's this is not just him building over a 300 The Shining page book, or a 7 or 1,000 page book like It or The Shining or The Stand. This is King building over fucking multiple books and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see King's knack for building shit, but on a bigger scale now. Because now he's building this giant, Tolkien-esque series, and I just love it because
you're absolutely right, and King's great at doing it in individual novels too, because we look at our two personal favorites, we look at It and we look at The Stand, and how it builds as the story progresses. It's interesting that King starts with something so small, such a small, simple idea, a killer clown, a deadly virus, and look at the stories that he builds off of that. That just shows you that. And what you're talking about here with this is it's a perfect example of him building to it. And I love your example of that.
And what does he build off on this? The greatest line he ever wrote.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. I mean, he's said it, and other people have said it too. It's his favorite line that he's ever written.
I mean, how could it not be?
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Wait, hold on. I want to make sure I get the quote right. Is it his favorite line, or is it his favorite opening line?
I don't know if there's a difference, man. Is there any non-opening line that's better than that he's ever written?
Well, I mean, in our opinion, but I think I'm talking specifically about Stephen King's opinion, because he did say it one time. I just can't remember the exact quote, whether or not he said, "That's my all-time favorite line," or "That's my all-time favorite opening." There is a difference there.
There is, but
But to us, I can't think of a line better off the top of my head.
No,
there are great lines in Stephen King's
There's
works.
some good ones. We have some in our intro. There are other worlds than these. That's a great line. But yeah, it's the opening line is certainly an all-timer.
Yeah.
So then go ahead and what do you got next here?
So Eddie's just been kind of chilling here. thinking and everything like that, like Tad was talking about. And he realized that what he had been waiting for had happened while he was thinking. Old Star had come out. In 15 minutes, maybe less, it would be joined by a whole galaxy of alien jewelry. But for now, it gleamed alone in the ungathered darkness. I always like those ones where the character, is waiting and then doesn't realize what they're waiting for.
Yeah.
It's great to discover it with characters. I love discovering stuff with characters.
Yeah.
It's something that still to this day is one of the reasons why I love the Harry Potter series, is because you take an outsider and put them into a world.
Yeah.
And then you're discovering it with that character.
So with this, I highlighted this one too. And what struck me here is that for the first number of books, I was trying to decide for myself, is this post-apocalyptic? Is this Mad Max, type thing? Is this our world that's just been obliterated and this whole other world's built out of it?
Yeah.
And I think this may be one of the first times that we have the most confirmation that it's not. The fact that it says a whole galaxy of alien jewelry. So you could maybe read that as like it's just talking about alien in terms of away from the planet. But I see
unfamiliar.
I see that alien as like it's not familiar.
Yeah.
It's not Old Star and Old Mother. Those two stars don't like correlate to anything in our skies. So like I think some of that stuff, but especially this kind of jumps out at me as maybe one of the times that really show you that no, this is not. Roland wasn't walking up the Pacific Ocean. This is not.
Yeah, he wasn't on the coast of California.
No, he wasn't on the coast of California. They're not. This isn't. Like our humanity blew our globe to shit, and this is thousands of years later. This is one of those first times, and I remember in the movie did it as well. They showed us the stars and stuff in the movie, and it was very clear that it was not our sky. And I just think this may be one of those times because I remember that when I was first reading it, I was really trying to find like. And of course we see things like there's brands that we know, there's the Beatles, there's the Bible, there's all this shit where it's like, okay, yeah, this seems like this would be our world, man. But this may be one of the first really hardcore things you can show that's like, nope, this is not ours. This is something different. So I do appreciate that as a someone that was grasping at any clue of, is this our world? If so, then my next question would have been, what happened? Are we ever going to find out how our world turned into this world? Like we have some hints and, it's probably nuclear annihilation, but
isn't it always?
yeah, exactly. Pretty much post 1945. That's pretty much how it works out.
Yeah.
Next note here I have, it says, Eddie slowly held up the key until Old Star gleamed within its wide central notch. And then he recited the old formula of his world, the one his mother had taught him as she knelt beside him in the bedroom window, both of them looking out over the evening stars which rode the oncoming darkness above the rooftops and fire escapes of Brooklyn. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight, wish I may, wish I might, have the wish I wish tonight. And yeah, that one certainly seems a little bit more familiar. I don't know if I have fully been exposed to that, but certainly sounds more familiar than some of the things that we've heard Roland say. And then it says, Old Star glowed in the notch of the key, a diamond caught in ash. Help me find some guts, Eddie said. That's my wish. Help me find the guts to try and finish this damn thing. So, yeah, that's, I just love that because again, we've seen Roland with some of these things, some of these like, I don't know what you'd call that. Those, even like childhood
rhymes
and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we've seen those from Roland, but to see one of ours and see Eddie like using it in the same way, it's just cool. For me, a lot of that stuff when it comes to like those childhood rhymes always make it feel very Lord of the Rings to me. Which is, I think, what King's trying to do here, right? Like whether it's The Stand, which is what he said he wanted to do, like the American Lord of the Rings, and then this is where he really wanted to do his Tolkien, like wide thing. And I just think that there's so many songs and rhymes and stuff in Lord of the Rings. I think this is when you get to these kind of things, that always reminds me of like it gives me the vibe of that, which I think is exactly what King would want us to feel. So definitely appreciate that. What do you got next?
So picking up right where you left off, he sat there a moment longer, then got to his feet and walked slowly back to camp. He sat down as close to the fire as he could get, took the gunslinger's knife without a word to either him or Susanna, and began to work. Tiny curling slivers of wood rolled up from the S shape at the end of the key. Eddie worked fast, turning the key this way and that, occasionally closing his eyes and letting his thumb slip along the mild curves. He tried not to think about what might happen if the shape were to go wrong. That would freeze him for sure. Roland and Susanna sat behind him, watching silently. At last, Eddie put the knife aside, his face running with sweat.
I love that they're both behind him just watching. Like, that would almost make it worse for me. Like,
it absolutely would when you're doing something like that, especially since you've been stressing about it.
Luckily, he's so focused, I don't think he noticed. But yeah, It's like when you're like typing and like, someone's like lurking over your shoulder watching.
I hate that.
It's yeah, exactly. Especially if it's something that's like important,
Yeah. Even if it's something not important, I've found recently playing on my computer and stuff, playing a game or something, I'll find my daughter lurking behind me.
Lurking, I love the word lurking.
She's lurking behind me. I have to pause my game and turn around and be like, yes. She's like, just watching. I'm like, okay, but why? Like, I feel like you're going to judge me that I shouldn't have done that I should have done something else. Like,
you die.
Can you not?
You die and your kid's like, you suck at this.
She better not.
Oh, man. She did. I would give her a cookie.
A cookie.
So the next up is this is right afterwards. Eddie says, "This kid of yours," he said, "this Jake, he must be a gutty brat." Then Roland responds, "He was brave under the mountains." Roland said, "He was afraid, but never gave an inch. I wish I could be that way." Roland shrugged. "At Balazar's, you fought well, even though they had taken your clothes. It's very hard for a man to fight naked, but you did it." So yes, definitely a very, very good. I mean, and see, I think this is where it's interesting because Roland and Eddie have not necessarily had the best relationship overall. There's been a lot of contention between the two, rightfully so. I think Roland's style and Eddie's style don't really gel very well. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the fact that I feel like Eddie, in his very nature, is one that he's got a petulance to him. I feel like as a kid he'd be the one that would always be trying to challenge the teacher and stuff like that. So that added to the fact that their personalities don't jive. All of that just makes it where they have a very, very contentious relationship. And Roland's pretty brutal. Roland's not very kind, and Susanna called him out on that earlier in this book. But this here, Roland kind of giving some positive reinforcement to Eddie, it actually feels striking to me. I can't really say that this feels very normal. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
this feels abnormal.
It definitely is.
It feels like Roland's more of the, destructive criticism versus constructive criticism. This isn't even criticism. This is just construction.
He flat out pays Eddie a compliment.
Yeah, exactly. He's building him up, and that just doesn't feel Roland-esque to me.
Yeah.
So it definitely stands out to me. But it's true though. I mean, ultimately Eddie does deserve that compliment, and he's not giving himself credit for it. But yeah, certainly. Once again, though, kind of like I'll just say it, the Hannibal Lecter thing. Again, Eddie has some clue that we don't. He knows what's coming in a way. And he's earlier it said he wondered about, was in wonder about it. And now he's, basically giving Jake a lot of credit for being a gutsy brat. So again, Hannibal Lecter just notching it up, what's coming, because Eddie seems to know, and he's pretty, impressed by it. And consider the fact that he as an adult is impressed by it, and a kid is going to go through it, whatever it may be. As a reader, when you see that kind of stuff, like even if it doesn't register like on your conscious, on your subconscious, it's got to register where it's like, dude, what the fuck is coming, man? So I do appreciate it. I love it. I love love the building here.
Again, back to it. Stephen King's great at building.
Yes, indeed. What do you got next?
He held up the key. He held the key up so its notches were sharply outlined against the flames. He held it that way for a long time, looking mostly at the S shape. It looked exactly as he remembered it from his dreams and from the momentary vision he had seen in the fire. But it didn't feel exactly right. Almost, but not quite. That's just Henry again. That's just all those years of never being quite good enough. You did it, buddy. It's just that the Henry inside doesn't want to admit it. He dropped the key onto the square of hide and folded the edges carefully around it. I'm done. I don't know if it's right, or not, but I guess it's as right as I can make it. He felt oddly empty now that he no longer had the key to work on. Purposeless and directionless. And that's something that is interesting to see. Like he feels, like purposeless and directionless.
But that's what he's been wanting. That's what I find is funny.
Well, it's funny that he feels that way because he didn't want it in the first place. He didn't want the responsibility,
and he's been wanting it to be done so he could move away from it. Like I just feel like it's one of those things that like he wants to just like be able to set it down and back away and be like, cool, I'm fucking done, man. Like, it's not on me anymore.
Yeah, it's so funny when you talk to people who deal with crunch like situations. Not just day to day minutia, but crunch like, hey, we got to have this done by this date, or else the company's going to be fucked.
Yeah.
It's going to have a royally bad month or a bad year if you don't, do this. Those people, they talk about it. There's the people that handle that kind of pressure. And it's interesting to see what those people are like after it's done.
Yeah.
There's some people who absolutely go through like the withdrawal and they're like, God, I need something else. I need another project. But there's also the people like Eddie, and I'm very much like Eddie, where it's just like, well, now what the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I did that problem. I solved that whatever situation we had, but now what? Do I just go back to normal? Do I just,
Yeah.
And it's not over. That's the thing, is it's not over.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like his part in the preliminary is over.
Yeah. And how did you interpret this? It didn't feel exactly right. And then, like, did you take his explanation in the next little bit here that it was probably just the inner Henry, or did you worry a bit?
I was terrified.
Yeah, I was worried because, like, it just feels like there's an exterior, seeing in the future type thing. There's an exterior force that's driving things, and there was just something about that. It didn't feel exactly right, almost, but not quite. That just felt exterior. That didn't feel like Eddie, getting beat by Henry in his mind. Now that just felt like that. The same thing that was telling, Jake, like, you got to do this or, whatever, and giving him almost like forward, memory. Like this feels the same. It feels like there's a draw, there's a pull. And so for him to say it didn't feel exactly right. I remember the first time where then it gives that, I didn't feel any more comfortable after that next paragraph where it said, that's just Henry again. I didn't feel any more comfort. I'm like, I don't know, man. That doesn't like the way King's written it so far. We've seen even Eddie, like Henry's voice, in italics like this, where it's like in Eddie's head.
That's what I was gonna say.
And it felt very like it's like Henry was there in his head. That doesn't feel like Henry in his head. That just said, but it doesn't feel exactly right. That just feels different, and that's why I said it's like the exterior pull, whatever you want to call it. It just felt like that to me. So I remember being real nervous. I'm like, I don't think this is right. I think something's wrong here.
It's one of those moments where you don't know the outcome of what's coming, like your first time reading and everything like that. And I've seen it with like TV shows. Even just recently, I've had it happen with a new TV show that I watched just this last few days. And you don't know what's going to happen, but when a character says something, you're like, that's not right.
Yeah.
And that's not how it's going to go down. I don't know what's going to happen. You're saying the choice was A or B, and I don't think it's going to be either one of those.
Yeah.
And this is one of those situations that happened with me when I was reading this for the first time, because I noticed the same thing that you pointed out, is that, oh, that's just Henry again. I'm like, well, wait a minute. We didn't hear Henry's voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not Henry telling you that something's wrong.
Exactly.
I caught that the very first time that I read this, because I'm like, no, that's just Henry again. I'm like, wait, no, it's not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That wasn't Henry.
Yeah. It's like, Eddie, I think you're wrong there. Hopefully it doesn't screw us here. So then moving on here a little bit further down, it says, but now something else rose in his mind. It came all at once, not a dream, not a vision. No, not either of those. It's a memory. It's happening again. You're remembering forward in time. So there's the reference to kind of what I was just talking about. Jake's had this in our last episode as well. I have something else first. I have to do something else first, he said, and got up. Because I'm sorry, the thing in this section we skipped, Susanna asked if he wanted something to eat.
Oh, right.
So that's what he's responding to. And it says, on the far side of the fire, Roland had stacked some odd lots of scavenged wood. Eddie hunted through them and found a dry stick about 2 feet long and 4 inches or so through the middle. He took it, returned it to his place by the fire, and picked up Roland's knife again. This time he worked faster because he was simply sharpening the stick, turning it into something that looked like a small tent peg. Mm-hmm. So, again, something is drawing him to this. And again, that's where it's like, it felt to me that what we just saw right there is kind of what that felt like up top when it says, but it didn't feel exactly right, almost, but not quite. So I'm worried as a reader. Yeah. I remember being worried where I was like, something's not right here.
Right. No, absolutely. I'm with you on that one. Right after where you left off, can we get moving before daybreak? He asked the gunslinger. I think we should get to the circle as soon as we can. Yes, sooner if we must. I don't want to move in the dark. A speaking ring is an unsafe place to be at night. But if we have to, we have to.
Yeah, and then I love Susanna's line there. From the look on your face, big boy, I doubt those circles are very safe anytime, Susanna said. So yeah. I love her because she just sometimes cuts through the bullshit a bit, and I think that's kind of one of those things where it's just like, and honestly, I don't think that, and what I love about this from the perspective of looking at it from the mechanics of writing is that we can't really see Roland's face. Mm-hmm. So this line from Susanna is very illuminating. It shows kind of how Roland has probably been holding himself.
Yeah.
We can get dialogue from Roland. We can get like the descriptors in the next to the dialogue that tell us like his tone.
He looked worried.
Yeah, but like we haven't really had a lot of that. So the fact that Susanna's saying this, and also the look on your face, it just seems like that's more continual too. It sounds like Roland's been worried probably since they saw the speaking ring last episode,
right?
That we had where they originally spotted it. So I just love that because it just highlights a lot, and it almost allows you to kind of backfill and rewind and just go, okay, this last little bit that I've been reading, Roland's kind of been uneasy about what's coming, and I just love that they just put it in there with Susanna being Susanna, man. She's a sharp cookie. No getting around her. And also she'll call you on it. I feel like with like Eddie, like he may stay silent on something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just not worth it, especially if it's not something funny. He'll just like whatever, just he'll notice it, but that's it. But Susanna's one that like she'll immediately call it out.
Yep.
I just love that. Yeah, I do love Susanna. She's awesome. And then. Yes, so I wanted to point that out. But then my next note here says Eddie put the knife aside again. The dirt Roland had taken out of the shallow hole he'd made for the campfire is piled up by Eddie's right foot. Now he used the sharpened end of the stick to carve a question mark shape in the dirt. The shape was crisp and clear. Okay, he said, brushing it away. All done. So, yeah, looks like he's getting a writing stick. Mm-hmm. Just because the way that King shows like the shape was crisp and clear, and then like so it looks like Eddie's testing it to make sure it's gonna perform the function that he wants. So yeah, that's all we got in this subchapter, it looks like. So then jumping over to subchapter 19,
always a good number.
Yes, indeed.
So just one last thing in subchapter 18, it does say that the gunslinger shook him awake at 4 a.m. It doesn't cover it, I don't think, in this one, so I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, okay.
But to start off subchapter 19, it's time, Roland said. Eddie sat up. Susanna sat up beside him, rubbing her palms over her face. As Eddie's head cleared, his mind was filled with urgency. Yes, let's go. And fast. He's getting close, isn't he? Very close. Eddie got to his feet, grasped Susanna around the waist, and boosted her into her chair. She looked at him anxiously. Do we still have enough time to get there? Eddie nodded. Barely.
And so, again, just like the sickness in the last book, King is giving us the ticking clock.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no better way to ramp up drama and suspense and tension than having a ticking clock.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's such a cliche in films to have the bomb that has the timer on it.
Yeah.
Because nothing's more intense than that.
What was it? Was it Alfred Hitchcock that talked about it? Where it's suspenseful knowing there's a bomb. It's even more suspenseful if you know there's a bomb and how much time on it and the characters don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if they're just sitting there having a conversation and there's a bomb under the desk and the camera just pans down and is like 2 minutes and 1:59, 1:58.
Yeah.
And then it pans back up and the two characters have no idea.
Yeah.
That's suspenseful. But here it's just like Eddie knows. Eddie knows, like, barely, he says that.
And we don't really know how Eddie knows fully.
That's true.
Like that's what I find interesting with this, is there's kind of an unwritten thing here where it's like Eddie has we understand that he's connected, right? We know that, like, he is a child and, is what, ultimately what Jake is going towards. But it's not fully spelled out exactly why Eddie understands the timeline as much as like Roland does. Even and this happened. This happened last episode too, because that's where it got called out basically because Eddie said that time's different over there. It doesn't. It doesn't run the same. The time for us isn't the same as time for him. So, we have that. So it's kind of interesting that he knows all like this stuff versus like Roland knowing it. So
yeah, and Roland does know this one too. It's not like it's just exclusive to Eddie. Roland's the one that woke him up because he recognized that it was time to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately though, Eddie's the one that told him. We need to can we get moving before daybreak and stuff. So I think actually in this case it's all Eddie.
I don't think so.
I don't give Roland any credit here because he's the one that Eddie's the one that said it to the gunslinger. Let's move before daybreak and stuff like that. So like when Roland wakes him up, the one thing I wanted to point out there I forgot and I didn't highlight it. What I love about that is that like Eddie and Susanna are ones that just sleep like normal, but Roland has like almost like a built-in alarm clock. So Eddie's like, we need to get moving before sunrise, and Roland's like, okay, I don't want to or whatever. But then like he's the one that wakes them up because I think he has this ability to just like.
Well, we saw that in book 2.
We did,
so.
And I just love it because there's just like it's just super. Because I can't wake up, man. I need like 3 alarms. And
are you one of those people that has to have?
Yeah.
It's I'm going to go out drinking with my friends and have 8 alarms.
Yeah, pretty much
ready to go. I've always been one of those people. An alarm goes off, I'm up.
But still,
I don't think the last time where I've turned off my alarm and accidentally got back to sleep. I think I was in my 20s the last time that happened. Here I am at 35, almost 36, and it's like, it doesn't happen to me anymore.
Yeah,
and I get up early.
See, I have to get those alarms that like it makes you do math problems to turn them off or to snooze them.
We recently just got my daughter an alarm clock, and she sleeps in a loft bed. I put her alarm clock on her TV stand across the room.
I did that. I can't remember if that was in high school or something, but I did the same thing at one point where I had to get up and go across the room.
Yeah, you have to get up and get moving before you can turn off the alarm.
Yeah. And there's also ones they make where it's like there's a foot pad on your bed, so you have to get both your feet on the ground before you can do anything with your alarm. So again, it's kind of forcing to make sure that you're like getting up.
Was it you that was my friend in high school that the mom used to throw water on?
Oh yeah, my mom would throw water on me.
Yeah, it was you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that.
A cup of water and just splash. Yep. Indeed. Yeah, I'm not a morning person, so it seems superhuman to me. But yeah, I'm going to disagree with you, man. I think it's 100% Eddie. I think Roland's waking them up certainly, but I think that's just more his superpower, being able to like, cool, we need to be up at this time. Cool, I'll wake up and wake these guys up. And
the thing I would say is that I don't think that Eddie set a time.
No,
Eddie said before daybreak. 4:00 is not just before daybreak. That's earlier than that. Roland's the one that says sooner.
Oh, he just says before daybreak in terms of it's just Eddie wants I guess in my mind what Eddie's saying is we can't wait till like the sun comes up and have our normal no, we need to get going like quick. And so I think a lot of this is driven by Eddie again because he has more inclination of what's going on, which is interesting because I think it would be so much easier in a lot of ways and maybe lazier to just have it to where Roland has all this knowledge. That Roland's the one that has some connection where it's like, oh no, the world runs different over there time wise, and oh he's on his way. No, to make it Eddie is kind of interesting in my mind. So
true.
Then moving on here, it says, and after an hour after that, as the first light of dawn began to touch the sky of the east, a rhythmic sound began far ahead of them. The sound of drums, Roland thought. Machinery, Eddie thought. Some huge piece of machinery. It's a heart, Susanna thought. Some huge, diseased, beating heart. And it's in that city where we have to go. 2 hours later, the sound stopped as suddenly as it had begun. What I love about this is this just feels like so brilliantly written because to have all 3 of them and showing us their take on it is just it not like one, it maybe almost spells out a little bit better what they're hearing because if you just say drum, then it's like cool. If that's all we heard, then you just assume cool, it's a drum of some kind. But then for Eddie to say it's machinery, it's like okay, so it's not just a drum, it sounds machine, whatever. And then her to say it's a heart, like it paints it in a 3-dimensional way, but also gives you a view of each of the characters and how they interpret it. Susanna sees it almost as something living and and diseased.
Yeah, if you say drums to me, I think of like old British war movies that my dad used to watch with the like the Zulu.
Yeah,
that's what I think of with drums.
Yeah,
but when you hear Eddie say machinery, all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. What drums and machinery? Like what could that be?
Is it like pistons that are hitting against something or
that kind of thing? And then Susanna with a heart, all of a sudden I start thinking, like a heartbeat. Ba-bum.
Yeah.
Ba-bum. You got 3 different things taking you 3 different ways, but like you said, I like the way you put that. makes it almost 3D.
Yeah.
Where you start, okay, well, if I take drums, so it's rhythmic. A heart, okay, it's multiple beats, like in a, like that.
Yeah.
And then it's machinery. Okay, then I think of I take a piston, like you're saying, ba-boom, ba-boom. And I can see where Roland would get drums from that.
Yeah.
Maybe not having as much experience with
machinery
as 1960s, 1970s New York.
Yeah,
I mean 1980s New York.
Yeah.
Eddie and Susanna would have.
Yeah, exactly. So I do love that. Again, it's just fun to me. Kind of reminds me of, I think it's Rashomon, where the movie where an event happens and you just see the movie from different perspectives. Like different people and like, so you kind of get this whole, like, everyone has a different view on it and stuff, and like,
oh really?
Yeah, like
that sounds really fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it kind of reminds me of that a little bit too, which is obviously it's happened in a number of movies and stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I think even there's some shows and stuff that have done it too, where you get like the different interpretations of things from different characters and stuff.
Well, the one that comes to my mind is there's that Simpsons episode where they did kind of was it the 24 one where you see like something lands next to Bart and you're like, well, how the hell did that get there? And it's in Homer's story that something explodes and launches it. It's like a toaster. Linguo. Yeah. See, I knew you would know because it's fucking Simpsons and you always know what I'm talking about.
Linguo dead. Linguo is dead.
Yeah, because he corrects. Yeah. But it's from Homer's story that happens, but you see where he lands in Bart's story.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that feels more like Pulp Fiction-y in terms of like the multiple stories that kind of cross over. Like Rashomon is more like it's one event, but you're seeing it from everyone different perspectives. So suddenly it's like, you think it goes one way, but then you see somebody else's take on it, and you're like, wait a minute, that's totally different.
Yeah.
Then it's totally different. And like, it's not exactly it, but it at least feels like it a bit.
What about Unusual Suspects? That
the
kind
usual
of like
suspects,
the usual suspects, where they're telling their stories. Everyone's telling their story of how it went down and everything like that, and then sometimes they conflict, and sometimes they're the exact same. That's great. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, indeed. So what do you got next?
So finishing off this subchapter here, the circle of standing stones lay less than 5 miles ahead now, gleaming in the shadowless light like the teeth of a fallen monster. And I love that one specifically, especially with the movie that we just watched last night, The Eternals, seeing like monstrous things like that.
Yeah.
And I could absolutely picture that, like the mouth of a monster.
Or
coming
Dune
out.
has a pretty good
Dune with the worm.
sandworm thing.
I still haven't watched that. I don't think I'm going to.
You should.
I don't know.
It's really good.
Is it?
It's really good. Yes.
You just want me to see Poe Dameron with a beard.
It was glorious. It was glorious. I mean, I would sacrifice Captain America's beard to the devil, to have more of Poe Dameron's beard.
Don't you talk about Captain America's beard that way. I love Captain America's beard.
So moving into subchapter 20, it's not really highlighted by either of the notes, but we got a billboard for movies. I got to at least point it out. 2 Sergio Leone classics, Fistful of Dollars, and Good, Bad, and the Ugly for 99 cents for all shows. I got to say, that's a pretty damn good deal for some really great fucking movies.
That's what it was back in the 70s.
I know, but still, I'm just saying, and that's a good 1-2 punch.
I get that every single time I read it with one particular scene, when Ben finds the bottles and then goes and turns them in and then goes to the candy store.
Yeah,
and he gets like a bag full of candy, and it's like, all right, that'll be 8 cents, and I'm like. Every time there's something like that, 11/22/63 kicks me in the gut every time.
Yeah,
it'll be a nickel for a root beer, and I'm like, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I just had to point out because of course I'm a movie fan, and Sergio Leone movies are amazing. So those are 2 good ones. Yeah. So then it starts off here. My first note is a gum-chewing cutie with rollers in her blonde hair sat in the box office listening to Led Zepp on her transistor and reading one of the tabloids of which Mrs. Shaw was so fond. And I just got to pause there and say I love that because, again, it just paints something in. We didn't know about Mrs. Shaw that she was a tabloid reader. Yeah. So I just love little lines like that because it just illuminates it to where it's like now when you read it again in the future, it gives you a little bit more insight to Mrs. Shaw. And this is far beyond any seeing of her. We haven't seen her or heard from her in a long time. And this says, to her left in the theater's remaining display case, there was a poster showing Clint Eastwood. Jake knew he should get moving. 3 o'clock was almost here, but he paused a moment anyway, staring at the poster behind the dirty, cracked glass. Eastwood was wearing a Mexican serape. A cigar was clamped in his teeth and had thrown one side of the serape back over his shoulder to free his gun. His eyes were pale, faded blue, bombardier's eyes. It's not him, Jake thought, but it's almost him. It's the eyes, mostly. The eyes are almost the same. You let me drop, he said to the man in the old poster, the man who was not Roland. You let me die. What happens this time? So that's that's a pretty startling thing. I mean, ultimately, of course, that's all I've ever thought of for Roland is Sergio Leone's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see. I mean, we've seen from the cop that he thought the Terminator, because of the emotionless nature of the Terminator, reminded him of Roland. But yeah, I've always thought of Clint Eastwood. So for him to say it's not exactly him, but it's almost him, and then to talk to it, that's pretty, And again, very foreboding too, because it's true. I mean, you're going back to this dude. This dude didn't really treat you very well the first time. So that's tough. What do you got next?
So Jake hears someone yelling. Jake turned and saw two boys, one at least 18 and the other a lot younger, 12 or 13. At the sight of this second boy, Jake's heart did something that felt like a loop-the-loop in his chest. I want to say loop-da-loop instead of loop-the-loop. I don't know why. Maybe it's just something with like being raised in Utah. I don't know if you say it that way, but it's loop-de-loop to me, not loop-the-loop.
Yeah, I would say loop-de-loop.
Loop-de-loop.
Yeah.
Oh,
not loop-the-loop.
Loop-the-loop. I say loop-de-loop. Loop-da, like D-A, the loop. Interesting. The kid was wearing green corduroys instead of Madras.
Madras shorts.
Madras, is that how you say that? Shorts. But the yellow T-shirt was the same. He had a battered old basketball under one arm. Although his back was to Jake, Jake knew he had found the boy from last night's dream.
How surreal would that be?
I would be unreal.
Can you imagine, man? I mean, I don't know. Like, that would be pretty startling.
I've had some things remind me of dreams, but I've never had anything from a dream, like, specifically happen.
Yeah.
Like this, but then again, I also haven't gone looking.
Yeah.
Like Jake is here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've had things similar to what's happened, and it's like, oh, yeah, I had a dream about that once. Like something very vague, like getting tripped, something like that. I had a dream about that last week that I got tripped, But if I saw, you skateboarding, which I've never seen in my life.
No one has.
If I saw that, if I had a dream about that and the next day I saw you on a skateboard, I'd be like, all right, that's it. Fucking lock me up in the funny farm. Give me a straitjacket. Let's go. Because that would blow my mind. I've never had anything like that happen to me.
Yeah. No.
Have you?
No. That's pretty surreal, man. That would be really trippy. He has the same shirt, but not the same pants and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then also we're getting 18 and 12 or 13. We obviously know who we're looking at here. Not necessarily that Jake does. So then moving over to subchapter 21. So basically we see that Henry is picking on this girl that was at the movie theater. And then a little bit further down here, it says the big boy's face was one that Jake had seen before. It was the face of a kid who would think that it was the height of hilarity to douse a cat's tail with lighter fluid or feed a bread ball with a fish hook planted in it in the middle to a hungry dog.
Okay, hold on a second. That would kill the dog, right?
Certainly would not be good for its health.
No, setting a cat's tail on fire, that I could see that hurting the cat, but not necessarily killing it. Man, you feed a fish hook to an animal like that. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Dude, that's fucked up in all kinds of ways.
Indeed. The sort of kid who sat in the back of the room and snapped bra straps and then said, "Who, me?" with the big old dumb look of surprise on his face when someone finally complained. There weren't many of kids like him at Piper, but there were a few. Jake supposed there was a few in every school. They dressed better at Piper, but the face was the same. He guessed that in the old days, people would have said that it was the face of a boy who was born to be hung. Which, I mean, sure, yeah, that certainly probably was a saying at one point or another. But yeah, I just like that because it shows a little bit about Piper. We didn't really see a lot about Piper. It seemed like everything we saw was the more formal side, but the side to show that it was still a normal school with like bullies and stuff. That feels like a fresh view to me, and it's interesting for sure.
It's also interesting that it's not called out specifically a bully. You know? That's something that, you know, we know with, you know, today's day and age and everything like that, bullying and everything is a huge thing. But, you know, when you look at where King wrote this, you know, that wasn't, you know, obviously bullying has been, you know, a matter forever, but it wasn't one that was didn't necessarily have like the limelight that it does nowadays. So to see it described this way without hearing the word, you know, bully, I mean, I kind of expected it the first time reading through, like, okay, come on, get to the every school has their bullies, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it never got there. So it's just interesting that way. So continuing on, Henry sees in this girl with a newspaper, and she goes to get it back, and it rips. And she gets all upset with him, calling him a turd. And I'm going to jump up just a little bit from where I have my note. Hey, what's the big deal? Henry sounded genuinely injured. It was just a joke. Besides, it's only ripped in one place. You can still read it, for Christ's sake. Lighten up a little. Why don't ya? Don't ya, as one word. And that was right, too, Jake thought. Guys like this, Henry always pushed even the most unfunny joke 2 steps too far. Then looked wounded and misunderstood when someone yelled at them. And it was always, what's the matter? And it was, can't you take a joke? And it was, why don't you lighten up a little? What are you going to do with him, kid? Jake wondered. No, what are you doing with him, kid? Jake wondered. If you're on my side, what are you doing with a jerk like that? But as the younger kid turned around and they started to walk down the street again, Jake knew. The old boy's features were heavier and his complexion was badly pitted with acne, but otherwise the resemblance was striking. The 2 boys were brothers.
Yeah, so again... Jake kind of catching up with us, but I do love that. You know, if you're on my side, what are you doing with a jerk like that?
Yeah,
that's a good question. You know, because if he doesn't realize they're brothers, like, you would wonder, man. If you know, it reminds me of like going through door 3 and realizing, wait, the last 2 have netted us team members. What the fuck are we seeing here?
Yeah, what is this guy going to bring to the team?
Like, it's like, okay, first you got a junkie, then you got multiple personality with one of them being a homicidal maniac. And then what's next? Like Ted Bundy? It's like, as a matter of fact, yes.
All right, then.
Oh man. Yeah. It's so I do love that, but then, you know, it becomes clear. And also again, this spells out a lot. I don't know if we've seen enough to know that Jake and Henry were that close, looks wise.
Yeah.
You know, so for Jake to be able to discern that, it teaches us a little bit about kind of what we're seeing in this world a little bit more, you know, because some brothers look alike, some brothers don't. So the fact that they're so close that it's apparent to a stranger is telling to how much they look alike. So let's jump down to subchapter 22. And then so Jake's following them. He's trying to stay far enough back to not get noticed. And then, you know, they're still talking about the girl and Henry saying that she liked it and all that kind of stuff and just, you know, normal nonsense that's just total bullshit. And then my note here, it says they were very close now. Jake shrank. Oh, I guess, I'm sorry, Jake isn't following them. He's ahead of them still. He shrank against the side of the building. His head was down, his hands stuffed deep in the pockets of his jeans. He didn't know why it seemed so vitally important to not be noticed, but it did. Henry didn't matter one way or the other, but... The younger one isn't supposed to remember me, he thought. I don't know why exactly, but he's not. They passed him without so much as a glance. The one Henry called Eddie walked on the outside, dribbling the basketball along the gutter. So, again, there's just that exterior voice that seems to be driving things, and now it's talking to Jake here to say, you know, you can't be remembered.
Yeah.
So, find that fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things with the Jake and Eddie story here is it's like, well, wouldn't Eddie remember this? Like, if this really happened? So it really started making me wonder, like, is this going to be Eddie?
Yeah.
Like, we knew it was Eddie. Like, we had that confirmation earlier, but then it started making me doubt a little bit, like, okay, is this going to be a misdirect?
Yeah.
But here it's like, nope, this is Eddie. He can't see you. He can't remember you. And it's like, oh, okay, I get you.
Yeah, kind of.
I get
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
You can't mess up with your own timeline too much. And not that this is his timeline, but you can't mess with things too much. It'll only cause problems.
So a little bit further down, Eddie looked up at his brother with an expression that wanted to be reproachful, and then he gave up and dissolved into laughter. Jake saw the unconditional love in the upturned face and guessed that Eddie would forgive a lot in his brother before giving it up as a bad job.
Yeah, which is just the damnable thing with brothers, right? Is as imperfect as Henry is, Eddie's always going to love him as a brother.
Oh, it's not just brothers. You see that across the board with relatives.
Yeah,
but brothers is a different bond.
Especially a younger brother to an older brother. There's a lot there. So that a lot of built-in baggage, I guess. Yeah. So. Then a little bit further down, it says, beyond the building the two boys are currently passing was a chain-link fence with an open gate in it. Beyond it, Jake saw was the playground, which he had dreamt last night. A version of it, anyway. It wasn't surrounded by trees, and there was no odd subway kiosk with diagonal slashes of yellow and black across the front. But the cracked concrete was the same, so were the faded yellow foul lines. So we remember from Jake's dream, he did see the basketball court. We understand that added stuff, the trees and the subway thing with the yellow and black diagonals. That's the stuff from the beam, from the portal at the end by Shardick's area. Right. We saw that in Roland's world. So basically we understood that, it's just kind of a merging of some basketball court that we're not really familiar with and something that we've already seen as readers. There's no way for him to know that he's, his dream was merging those two things together. So he's seeing the basketball court, but he just doesn't, the only thing that's separated in his mind is the fact that it doesn't have the basically the portal, which it certainly wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So I find that fascinating because again we saw that. I don't remember how much we commented on it in Jake's dream, that the fact that he was basically seeing a basketball court with Roland's world kind of merging with it.
Right.
So what do you got next?
So next they get to the basketball court, talking about the older brother here. He stole the ball away from his younger brother, dribbled clumsily onto the playground, and went for a layup that hit high on the backboard and bounced back without even touching the rim of the hoop. Henry was good at stealing newspapers from teenage girls, Jake thought, but on the basketball court, he sucked the big one. I had to highlight that because I love King's humor with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Eddie walked in through the gate, unbuttoned his corduroy pants, and slipped them down. Beneath them were the faded Madras shorts he had been wearing in Jake's dream.
So we go.
There's clarification. Oh, there it is.
It's getting closer to what he saw in the dream there.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely interesting to see. I do love the way that he's kind of making fun of Henry and stuff. That he's just bad, and Jake can kind of see that. But yeah, that's funny. And then as we see here, it kind of gives us a breakdown of it, of kind of how they're playing and stuff. And Jake's kind of creeping around trying to get a good area to sit that wouldn't get him noticed. And then we see this whole thing lay out where, Eddie misses on purpose, and then Henry gets the ball, and then he scores. Basically, Eddie's letting it all happen. And then my note here is 1-up. Henry panted, played at 12, sure. And then it says Jake had seen enough. It would be close, but in the end, Henry would win. Eddie would see to it. It was more than to save him from getting lumped up. It would put Henry in a good mood, making him more agreeable to whatever it was Eddie wanted to do. Because I guess that's the other thing is that we have skipped as we've been going on here is Eddie was begging Henry to take him somewhere.
Oh right, yeah.
So that was a big part, and then they were playing basketball here. So maybe Eddie's sweetening him up, trying to get his way here. And then it says, "Hey Moose, I think your little brother's been playing you like a violin for a long time now, and you don't have the slightest idea, do you?" So I do find that funny because again, Eddie, I think that we maybe have seen that from everything we've seen from Eddie otherwise. But I think that what this is showing is even at a younger age, Eddie's not dumb.
Yeah,
he's smart. So maybe some of his shortcomings when it comes to Roland and the whole group, maybe more about his environment and his raising more than like natural ability or not.
Yep.
If maybe he had Jake's background, he might be, a lot smarter and less, prone to some issues and stuff. So I find that fascinating.
A little bit further down, the game took almost 10 minutes, and by the time Henry claimed victory, the streets were filled with other home-going kids. A few gave Jake curious glances as they passed by. "Good game, Henry," Eddie said. "Not bad," Henry panted. "You're still falling for the old head fake." "Sure he is," Jake thought. "I think he'll go on falling for it until he's gained about 80 pounds. Then you might get a surprise." "I guess I am. Hey, Henry, can't we please go look at that place?" "Yeah, why not? Let's do it." "All right," Eddie yelled. There was the smacking sound of flesh on flesh, probably Eddie giving his brother a high five. "Boss!" You go on up to the apartment. Tell Mom we'll be in by 4:30, 4:45, but don't say anything about the mansion. She'll have a shit fit. She thinks it's haunted too.
One thing I find in all this too that's really striking is it like to compare this is just a younger Eddie and to know where Eddie and Henry both end up. It's kind of heartbreaking.
It is,
because this is Henry's kind of a prick, but like overall, like this is a pretty wholesome brotherhood here. And so to know that in a few short years, Henry's going to get into heroin and then drag his younger brother into it, potentially a younger brother that's not even 18 yet.
Yeah.
And that, we're eventually going to end up with younger brother basically being set up to go to prison for a long time. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily they're setting him up in terms of they want him to go to prison, but he's being put into a very stupid heist that probably wasn't going to go his way. And that's probably why he was sent, right? Instead of Balazar using someone of his own person, they're going to get some stupid junkie and send them because then they're disposable. If they get through, great. If not, awesome. Like it's no great loss, as another book might say. Okay, so then down a little bit, because they talk a little bit about what they're going to tell them, what they're going to tell his mom. He says, say we're going to go get candy and ask her for some money, and then he says. Eddie says she's not going to give me money. He says, yeah, she will. You can get her to get it to you. Then my note here is the mansion haunted, do you think? Jake sidled a little closer to the playground. He didn't want to be noticed, but he had a strong feeling he needed to hear this. Nah, there's no real haunted houses, just in fucking movies. Oh, there was unmistakable relief in Eddie's voice. But if there was one, Henry resumed, and then it says in parentheses, perhaps he didn't want his little brother feeling too relieved, Jake thought. It'd be the mansion. I heard it a couple years ago. 2 kids from Norwood Street went up there to bump uglies, and the cops found them with their throats cut and all the blood drained out of their bodies. But there wasn't any blood on them or around them. Get it? The blood was all gone. You're shitting me, Eddie breathed. Nope. But that wasn't the worst thing. What was? Their hair was dead white, Henry said. The voice drifted to Jake was solemn. He had an idea that Henry wasn't teasing this time. At this time, he believed every word he was saying. Then it says in parentheses, he also doubted that Henry had brains enough to make up such a story. Both of them, and their eyes were wide open and staring like they saw the most gross, awful thing in the world. Give me a break, Eddie said, but his voice was soft and odd. You still want to go? Sure, as long as we don't, have to get too close. So, that's some terrifying stuff. And it sounds like where we're going is a haunted mansion.
Yep.
That sounds
like one of those neighborhood ones. Like, don't go to Tad's house. It's haunted.
Yeah. Now I have to point out, as a King fan, hair that was dead white. That sounds familiar.
Yep.
Sounds like some Deadlights action from It. Mm-hmm. So, and that I find that very fascinating because I love those kind of like connections. Not necessarily that like I'm expecting that we're going to see like Pennywise or Deadlights in this mansion, but the fact that the hair turning white is something that is already familiar to us as King fans. So for him to bring it back here, he has to be conscious of it. So I find that awesome. And the eyes are open too. That would be just think about what that'd be like to find as a cop. People with no blood, completely. There's no blood around. They're drained of blood. Hair is white, and their eyes are open, and they're like screaming in terror.
Yeah, there's one of those in the Harry Potter series. They have 3 people who are dead, and they think that it's someone. But then when they do the autopsy, they find absolutely nothing wrong with them, and the only thing that they can notate is that the face of pure horror on the look of each 3 of the victims. And it's like, well, wait, so what the fuck did they die from? All you see is, all you got is just this look, that's it. That's all I got. At least this one, they're missing their blood. Okay. There's a reason for their death.
Although the blood part may have been made up. I will give it that, right?
Yeah.
That could have been something that Henry's making up.
Well,
it's
always
the white hair in the face that's like the Jake's thinking like, there's no way he made this part up.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, the way he's saying it, and also I don't give him enough credit to have the intelligence to make this up.
That's true.
So it's like at least the white hair in the face is real. The blood, who knows? That could just be part of the whole like bullshit story that gets spread amongst kids, right?
Well, it's always one of those things too with urban legends. You know? It's oh my gosh, there was 2 that were killed up there. Yeah, did you hear they had their throats slit by a hobo? Oh yeah,
and then it's the telephone game,
and then it's yeah, it was slit by a hobo and he drank their blood. Oh, it was slit by a hobo and there was no blood at the scene. You know, like you said, the telephone game.
Yeah.
And then especially when it's told years later, it's also. I caught myself doing this, misremembering.
Yeah.
What someone told you a month ago or a year ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
Especially if it's one of those houses that just sits empty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which always seems like to be the case in movies and TV shows and stories like this, is that it's not one that I think of like the Michael Myers house.
Yeah.
Yeah, he set up there 10, 15 years ago. Why the fuck is the house still empty?
Yeah.
Like, I've been looking at houses. I know what the housing market's like. Things don't stay empty.
Well, they did say that, Brackett told Loomis it's been empty since the murder, and everyone in Haddonfield thinks it's haunted, so that's why it's still available.
Yeah, but someone would come in from out of town and be like,
yeah, if horror movies have taught me anything, there'd be a family with a bunch of kids that would move in.
Right?
Haunted or not, they'd move in.
It's Amityville Horror all over again.
Or Haunting of Hill House, or just let's
list a few more. Yeah, exactly.
Let's just keep going. Poltergeist. There's always like some family ready to move into some horrific, house. So,
it's cheap. Yeah, I'll move my family here. What's that? Murder of 5? Occult? Satanic rituals?
Yeah.
Bones were never found?
Native burial ground?
What? Wait, how much of a discount do I get?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, indeed. So what do you got next here?
To his horror, the boy in yellow t-shirt turned in Jake's direction. Holy crow, he thought, dismayed. What if this is his building? It was. Jake's just had enough time to turn around and begin to scan the names beside the rank of buzzers before Eddie Dean brushed past him. So close that Jake could smell the sweat he had worked up on the basketball court. He half sensed, half saw the curious glance the boy tossed in his direction. Then Eddie was in the lobby and headed for the elevators, with his school pants bundled under one arm and the scuffed basketball under the other. Woo! Close call.
So what I love, though, there is that he half sensed and half saw the curious glance of the boy, because in our last episode, Eddie said something about maybe seeing Jake. Mm-hmm. They're like, was he there? Like, maybe, but he wasn't like fully sure.
Yep.
But there was something tickling in memory. And I think this is a perfect way to do it, where it's like he kind of sees him, but not enough to fully register it. So it's like, there is a half remembered thing there, but it's not like a full on memory of, oh yeah, I remember that stupid kid with like wearing the giant sunglasses, because earlier it did say that Jake put his dad's sunglasses on. So, those would be comically large, so it just adds to kind of what we've already read earlier, that Eddie kind of has a vague memory that he may have seen Roland's boy, and this I think is a perfect way to kind of fill in why that is, because he kind of did see him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it goes a little bit further down. And here at the end, it says of the subchapter, it says, as he reached it, the door opened, because Henry was coming toward the door. It says, as he reached it, the door opened and Eddie came out. He had changed into a pair of jeans and a fresh T-shirt, and also tied a green bandana, the same one that he had been wearing in Jake's dream, around his forehead. So there is the coup de grace. Now everything that was in the dream has been seen in reality.
Yep.
He was waving a couple of dollars triumphantly. Henry snatched them and then asked Eddie something. Eddie nodded, and the two boys set off. Keeping half a block between himself and them, Jake followed. So, trying to be a little gumshoe here, following along. So,
I followed them at a distance. I had to keep my distance so they didn't know I was there.
Indeed. So let's move over to subchapter 23. What do you got here?
Right off the bat, they stood in the high grass at the edge of the great road, looking at the speaking ring. So again, we're back with Eddie, Susanna, and Roland.
Yeah, we moved back to bouncing subchapter to going back and forth to both worlds.
Yep.
Even though we did have that one that merged them into one subchapter, where we've kind of gone back to quarantining them to their own little subchapters, which is
again the Q word. Watch that.
I think it is good, though. It helps us keep it straight a bit as readers. But again, I do still find it fascinating that we cross-pollinated them on one.
Yeah. They stood in the high grass at the edge of the great road, looking at the speaking ring. Stonehenge, Susanna thought and shuddered. That's what it looks like, Stonehenge. Although the thick grass which covered the plain grew around the base of the tall gray monoliths, the circle they enclosed was bare earth. Littered here and there were white things. What are those? She asked in a low voice. Chips of stone? Look again, Roland said. She did, and saw they were bones. The bones of small animals, maybe. She hoped.
Yeah, no shit. Oh, man. I mean, this is the second time we've had a little place, well, maybe even the third time. You know, you have the Golgotha in book 1. In the beginning of this one, you had those little robotic creatures, and there was kind of a little place of death for all of them, and some dead bodies, and even small dead animals. So, yeah, it's becoming a trend here of little places of death.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a lovely room of death at some point.
It's a lovely room of death. Good Ace Ventura reference right there.
Oh, indeed. That's classic. So then moving on here, it says Eddie switched the sharpened stick to his left hand and dried the palm of his right against his shirt and switched it back again. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out of his dry throat. He cleared it and tried again. I think I'm supposed to go in and draw something in the dirt. Roland nodded. Now? Soon. He looked into Roland's face. There's something here, isn't it? Isn't there? Something we can't see. It's not here right now, Roland said. At least I don't think it is. But it will come. Our Kef, our life force, will draw it. And of course it will be jealous of its place. Give me my gun back, Eddie. Eddie unbuckled the belt and handed it over. So Roland repossessing his birthright here of his guns. I almost kind of forgot that Roland didn't have his guns. You know, it's easy to lose sight of that because you just picture him and you just picture him with a gun.
Right.
At least one, if not two. So, I mean, of course, he doesn't need two, what with his finger loss and stuff.
Hashtag Todd is terrible. There it is. You know how much that bothers me, so you always bring it up.
Yes, it's easy to forget that he doesn't have his guns on him. So it's kind of a good way to bring that up. And also, that's just an ominous thing, you know. There's something here, isn't it? No, not here, but it's around and it'll be back.
By the way, give me my gun so I can defend myself.
Yeah, exactly. Like now, when you're reading this, does this feel beasty to you?
No.
You know, dead animal bones and like it's around. I could sense it, and no, it did to me. It felt very like predatory something. You know.
No, I was thinking of the demon from the first book.
Yeah,
which is not, it's predatory-ish, but it's not beasty, it's ghosty, is how it seemed to me.
Yeah, well.
Is what came across to me, so.
Well, let's just keep hoping we'll run into some beasts here.
No beasts.
So what do you got next here?
At the end of this paragraph, he's talking about a stench in the circle there. It was familiar, that smell. The mansion. I smelled it there. The day I talked Henry into taking me over to see the mansion on Reinhold Street in Dutch Hill. Yeah. So now we know where Eddie asked Henry to go when they were talking about a place that was haunted.
Yeah.
And that's where Jake's following him to.
Yeah, that's where we're headed. I do also love, because it's a reality of like the power of smell. You know, you can get a smell and then you can smell it again 20 years later and it'll bring you right back to where you first smelt it. You know, there's some people that'll get like triggered when they're like dating or marry someone and they wear a perfume that like a previous girlfriend wore or something. And it's just like, oh no, please don't wear that ever again. Just all different things. I don't know. Sometimes it happens to all of us. Like you just get this like crazy, like, trip to the past through smell. I don't know why it's so.
It just happened to me this last week. We talked about it last episode that I was going back to work with Tad where we worked at before.
Yeah.
Man, I walked into that building and that smell hit me. The distinct smell that I'm talking about. I walked in there and I went, fuck, I know this smell. I know where I'm at. I know this.
Yeah.
All those memories of all those years that we spent there came flooding back to me. I know exactly what we're talking about here with that.
Yeah, I don't know why smell has such a way like that. But it does. It really does.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the whole like smell plays a part of taste and everything too.
Yeah.
If something smells bad, more often than not every time, more often than not, you won't enjoy the taste of it.
Yeah.
So that's something. But there are exceptions to the rule, obviously. Yeah. I love the smell of coffee. I have never had a cup of coffee that I've thoroughly enjoyed the taste of it.
I love coffee.
I know you do.
I do. Although it just has to be just black coffee.
You don't do anything in your coffee?
I'll put cream and sugar if it's shitty coffee.
If it's bad coffee, you cover up the taste. But if it's good coffee,
if it's good coffee, I'll drink that shit black, man.
Yeah,
and I'll do a French press, so it's like even more strong. Yeah, that's
all right.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. So then it goes on here, and it says Roland buckled his gun belt and then bent to knot the tie down. He looked up at Susanna as he did. We may need Detta Walker, he said. Is she around? Which that just brings so much joy to my heart. I love Detta Walker. That bitch always around. Susanna wrinkled her nose.
I always love when sorry to interject here. I always love when Susanna talks about Detta because she slips into the Detta speech.
Yeah.
That bitch is always around.
Yeah.
Is how you would expect Susanna to speak.
Yeah.
That bitch always round.
Yeah.
Like, I almost expect her to be like
yeah.
She slips a little bit whenever even just talking about her.
Yeah. Then Roland goes on and says, good. One of us is going to have to protect Eddie while he does what he's supposed to do. The other is going to be so much useless baggage. This is a demon's place. Demons are not human, but they are male and female just the same. Sex is both their weapon and their weakness. No matter what the sex of the demon may be, it will go for Eddie to protect its place, to keep its place from being used by an outsider. Do you understand? So that gives us a lot of knowledge. So demons are male or female. Sex is their weapon and their weakness. And then it is going to go after Eddie. So that's it's a lot of points we're laying down here as bullet points. So very interesting. And then you got the next note here a little bit further down.
Further explanation here. There's no time to say this in a gentle or refined way. Roland told her. One of us is going to have to fuck it to keep it off Eddie. Susanna interrupted. That's the sort of the sort of thing can't ever turn down a free fuck. That's what you're getting at, isn't it? Roland nodded. Her eyes gleamed. They were the eyes of Detta Walker now, both wise and unkind, shining with hard amusement, and her voice slid steadily deeper into the bogus southern plantation drawl, which was Detta's trademark. If it's a girl demon, you get it. But if it's a boy demon, it's mine. That about it? Roland nodded. What about if it swings both ways? How about that, big boy? Roland's lips twitched the bare suggestion of a smile. Then we take it together. Just remember.
And then he gets cut off there.
Yeah.
I love Detta, and I know that it's like just like Eddie pointed out, it's cartoony, and I think that's the whatever. Yeah. It's ultimately cartoony. It's a stereotype, not even a stereotype. It's like a bad cartoon. But I just love her because she's a fucking badass, man. Like if
she's ready to throw down. Right here. It's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, if you need just an animalistic like badass, like Detta's the person you want. More so than Roland, more so than Eddie. Like she is a fucking just. She's a savage, man. She's
ready to go.
She'll destroy anything. Mm-hmm. So, and I just love that about her. As much as I hated her early on reading, it was easy to hate Detta. But I can't remember when it was. It was like 2 or 3 rereads for me ago that it just dawned on me how much I loved her. Just like she makes me laugh too. All the insults and stuff at Roland and Eddie when she's in book 2 and stuff. They crack me up, dude. She's hilarious.
I'm glad that we have a camera on you now so that they can see the big cheese eating grin you have on your face right now when you're talking about her.
She's great, man. I mean, again, I know that it's makes people uncomfortable because it is very. I don't know.
Racist.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I don't think that I don't think it's written in a way that's racist. I know some people like to try to infer things from the writing and apply that to the authors. But it's the thing is it just said it there, the bogus accent, you just covered it in your note. It's I don't think King's writing this because he wants to just have this ridiculously stereotypical, cartoonishly minstrel show thing. No, he's writing it because it's a reality of Susanna in her mind has created this cartoony thing. It's not. Mm-hmm. I don't know. For me, there's a distinction there. I don't think that it's I don't think that as problematic sometimes as King can be with different tropes. We've talked about before. I don't necessarily feel that Detta falls into that as much. I don't know, but that's just me. But then it's this what cuts off Roland there when he says, just remember, it says, beside them in a faint and distant voice, Eddie murmured, not all is silent in the halls of the dead. Behold, the sleep wakes. He turned his haunted, terrified eyes to Roland. There's a monster. The demon? No, a monster, something between the doors, something between the worlds, something that waits, and it's opening its eyes. I'm getting chills here, just like that first line. Not all that is silent in the halls of the not all is silent in the halls of the dead. That's creepy. But then that whole thing about then it's opening its eyes, like I'm getting chills because that's just like terrifying.
Yeah, not all is silent in the halls of the dead is a creepy line in and of itself. But when you add, behold, the sleeper wakes. There's a monster. No, no, not a fan.
Yeah, nope, no thanks.
Now we're triggering my beastie thing, my monster thing. Nope.
Yeah,
nope.
It says something between the doors, between the worlds. Something waits, and it's opening its eyes. Like that just makes it even worse. Susanna casts a frightening glance at Roland. Stand, Eddie. Roland said, "Be true." Eddie drew a deep breath. I stand until it knocks me down. He said, I have to go in now. It's starting to happen. We'll all go in, Susanna said, and she arched her back and slipped out of the wheelchair. Any demon want to fuck with me is going to find out he's fucking with the finest. I'd throw him a fuck he ain't never going to forget. As they pass between the two of the tall stones and into the speaking circle, it begins to rain.
It always begins to rain. It's so perfect.
Yeah, and going back, I mentioned Rashomon earlier, which is a Kurosawa film. The one of the most famous, if not the most famous, Kurosawa film ever is The Seven Samurai, and I think that is actually the first movie in history that actually did that, where the final battle, as it begins, it starts to rain. And of course, that's been spoofed not spoofed, but that's been alluded to and homaged a million times. And yeah, like you just said, it always rains, and I just think because it just works, man.
One of it comes from you've heard of Squid Game, right?
Yeah,
the Netflix show.
I haven't watched it yet, but yeah,
that's the show that I just watched this past few days.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know you watched it.
Yeah, I just watched it. There's a line in there that someone says that in one episode they talk about rain and how it's I'm trying to look it up to see if I can find it, but he says it in Chinese, in Mandarin, and then they're like, "What's that mean?" He goes, "Good rain knows when to fall." And I was like, "Fuck yes!" That describes this perfectly right here.
Yeah,
it's a really cool line of "Good rain knows when to fall," and it does. It Helm's Deep. Lord of the Rings.
Helm's Deep. Yeah.
That is absolutely the perfect time for it to get fucking rainy. That's hell yes.
So
I love it.
You've seen like the Magnificent Seven, like growing up. So Seven Samurai is the inspiration for that.
Yeah.
So same idea. You got these raiders that are going to come back, and they're at a certain point they hire the Seven Samurai, the Seven Cowboy to defend them. So literally, as the horde is coming, like in Seven Samurai, it starts to rain. So the whole final battle, it's Helm's Deep is like probably one of the most famous like tributes to like Seven Samurai.
Yep.
Now, King doesn't mention it here, but there has to be thunder too, right?
Right?
I mean, there has to be. It can't just be silent rain. I mean, rain's not silent, but there's got to be like that ominous thunder in the background too.
I don't know. Sometimes it's just rain.
I don't know.
Helm's Deep
for this though.
Helm's Deep was just
for
rain.
This with a demon and a speaking ring and a monster between worlds. Like there's got to be.
Because especially what you have in film, when the demon comes rolling up and everything like that. Especially if it's a visible one, and we'll find out here in just a second that this one's not.
Yeah.
But especially if it's visible, you have to have like the lightning, because then it rolls up and it lands, and then lightning flashes behind it, and you get a silhouette of it. You get to see it, and then the thunder rolls as it roars. Perfect.
Well, I mean, I think when Eddie says and it's opening its eyes, I just feel like there's a flash of thunder or a lightning at that point.
There's
yeah. Just has to be. I mean, there's no question about it. It's just King doesn't write it, but it's still there.
They did a Seven Samurai in a Pixar film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bug's Life is basically Seven Samurai.
Okay, I haven't seen Bug's Life in a couple decades now.
Literally, and you know what? The final confrontation
rains,
thunder, and lightning. Yes, absolutely. You pointing that out, I'm just like.
Yeah,
my mind is blown. Yeah, it's good rain.
Now, I don't remember Seven Samurai had the thunder, but it does have rain. I'm just saying in certain cases,
absolutely,
there has to be thunder, and I think this one needs thunder.
This one would have lightning and thunder for sure. Well, no, not lightning. Let's just have a good old fashioned thunderstorm.
Just thunder. Yeah. Okay, so
subchapter 24, right?
Subchapter 24. Yeah.
Okay. As soon as Jake saw the place, he understood two things. First, that he had seen it before in dreams so terrible his conscious mind would not let him remember them. Second, that it was a place of death and murder and madness. He was standing on the far corner of Reinhold Street and Brooklyn Avenue, 70 yards from Henry and Eddie Dean. But even from where he was, he could feel the mansion ignoring them and reaching for him with its eager, invisible hands. He thought there were talons at the end of those hands, sharp ones. It wants me, and I can't run away. It's death to go in, but it's madness not to. Because somewhere inside that place is a locked door. I have the key that will open it, and the only salvation I can hope for is on the other side. He stared at the mansion, a house that almost screamed abnormality. With a sinking heart, it stood in the center of its weedy, rioting yard like a tumor.
Yeah, indeed. Now, again, another Stephen King reference. A wicked, haunted, large place that wants a child.
Yep.
Sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
Well, sounds familiar to a book reader.
Yes.
If you're a film watcher, The Shining doesn't really want Danny necessarily. But in the book, Danny is the main purpose for the Overlook. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the main thing the Overlook wants is Danny, because Danny's very powerful at the Shine. So it just feels very Shining to me. That, like, you know, whatever, except for the fact that the Shining, the Overlook kind of masked itself for a while. You know, Danny obviously had some warnings about it, but it was nowhere near as malignant as this one is right off the bat. And this one is malignant right off the bat, and it is wanting Jake, and he can sense it.
Yeah, skipping right past Eddie and Henry to reach for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which that's just comforting.
And reaching with hands that have talons on the end.
Yeah.
Claws.
Yes, of course.
Ripping claws like a beastie has.
Exactly. Then a little bit further down it says it looked as if he had been it looked as if it had been deserted for years, yet it had suffered remarkably little vandalism. And once Jake thought it really had been a mansion, the home perhaps of a wealthy merchant and his large family. In those long gone days, it must have been white, but now it was a dirty gray, no color. The windows had been knocked out, and the peeling picket fence which was surrounded it had been spray painted, but the house itself was intact. So that's tells you a lot about it, you know. Mm-hmm. If even the most rambunctious rapscallions won't approach the house,
rambunctious rapscallions,
then it tells you a lot about the place, you know. There's a certain level of like haunted, and like there's a certain level of like having a legend about it and stuff. But yeah, when you get to the level where like even like vandals won't approach, like yeah, there's something going on there.
Yeah,
that's pretty creepy. So what do you got next?
So further down, the house was alive. He knew this, could feel it awareness reaching out from the boards and the slumping roof, could feel it pouring in rivers from the black sockets of its windows. The idea of approaching that terrible place filled him with dismay. The idea of actually going inside filled him with inarticulate horror. Yet he would have to. He could hear a low, slumberous buzzing in his ears, the sound of a beehive on a hot summer day, and for a moment he was afraid he might faint. He closed his eyes, and his voice filled his head. You must come, Jake. This is the path of the beam, the way of the tower, and the time of your drawing. Be true. Stand. Come to me.
So, yeah, kind of getting his Roland monologue. Roland's been getting it from his father and from Court.
Yep.
Eddie's been getting it from Henry. Jake has actually heard it from Roland before, but he's hearing it again. So I always love these things. I love these internal voices from the, I don't know what you call it, like fatherly figure, the mentor, I guess.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely probably something he needs to boast his morale as he looks at the horrors of this place. And King's doing a very good job of spelling out this horror.
The Mufasa to Simba.
Yeah, indeed.
You know, the voice in the clouds.
Simba,
Remember
this is CNN. I mean, that's what he says, right?
I couldn't stop laughing last night at the movie when they're like, remember who you are. And I'm like, Mufasa?
Who?
In the movie, they're like, remember who you are. And I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
You can't do that. I know you own it, but you can't do that.
The fear didn't pass, but that terrible sense of impending panic did. He opened his eyes again and saw that not only that he was not the only one who had sensed the power and awakening sentience of the place. Eddie was trying to pull away from the fence. He turned toward Jake, who could see Eddie's eyes wide and uneasy underneath the green headband. His big brother grabbed him and pushed him toward the rusty gate, but the gesture was too half-hearted to be much of a tease. However thick-headed he might be, Henry liked the mansion no better than Eddie did. And I do have to point out, too, that the mansion is capitalized constantly.
Yep.
It's a proper noun here. So, I love this because, again, we've kind of almost lost sight of Eddie and Henry there for a bit. And then, here we finally just realize, oh, yeah, kind of with Jake. Oh, yeah, shit, they're still there. And not only are they there, they're closer to it.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit of harassing by Henry, but half-hearted because he's just as terrified. What do you got next?
So Jake suddenly remembered Eddie speaking in his dream. Remember, there's danger, though. Be careful and be quick.
So, yeah, just a good way to reiterate the warning that was given. Yeah. And then a little bit further down, it says, are you sure it's not really haunted? Eddie said as they stepped onto the sidewalk on Jake's side. Well, I tell you what, Henry said, now that we've been out here again, I'm really not sure. They passed directly behind Jake without looking at him. Would you go in there, Eddie asked. Not for $1 million, Henry replied promptly. So, I mean, 1987, $1 million was a lot more than it is now. And for a kid, that's pretty much infinite money. And yeah, he says, no way, not for $1 million. So,
yeah.
Now, the question is, would you go in there?
For $1 million?
Just in general.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I've actually wanted to do like haunted places, like ghost hunts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan. I mean, you remember when we lived together, I would watch that show, what's it called? It's the Taps Crew, where they would go and investigate a place. But they did it like,
yeah,
with the eye of, is it real?
No,
is
I know.
It not?
But what I'm saying is, like, say you're going to go and you find this is a real place somehow. And you do get there, but as you approach, you get the same feelings. Would you actually go in, do you think? Or do you think you
would...
For
$1 million?
No, I'm just saying in general. No,
just for fun?
Yeah.
No.
You can't. I probably wouldn't either. No. But I don't think so.
If there's $1 million on the line, then we're having a conversation. But just go in when I have a bad feeling about this? No, I've watched Star Wars. I know to trust my feelings.
As I just like bamf beside you, I have a bad feeling about this, and bamf away.
You don't say that. You don't say you have a bad feeling about it, because if you say that, something bad happens. You just acknowledge. You just go, nope, I'm out. You just go, I'm out. Sorry. Bye.
Oh, man. All right. So what do you got next?
Oh, you read my note.
No, I thought you had one. Oh.
Yeah, the $1 million one was my note. Yeah. So.
I didn't separate them
it's okay.
on my highlight here.
Yeah, so you're up next.
Oh, okay. I usually try to do separate colors just in case if they're close together. But it has also a split on mine.
Yeah.
Next page, so there's no way to tell.
We've had that happen before. It's understandable.
Yeah. So next up, at the very end here, it says they're going home. Jake thought, and felt a wave of loneliness so strong that it felt it would crush him. Going to eat supper and do homework and argue over which TV show to watch, then go to bed. Henry might be a bully shit, but they've got a life. Those two, one that makes sense, and they're going back to it. I wonder if they have any idea how lucky they are. Eddie might, I suppose. Jake turned, adjusted the strap of his pack, and crossed Reinhold Street. So. Yeah, this kind of reminds me also Neibolt Street.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that a little bit, too. Certainly a place of evil in Derry. The house on Neibolt Street. So I don't know if Reinhold Street is necessarily the same, but there's just something about it that reminds me of it. I don't know if it's the name or if it's just the overall spookiness of the place, but yeah. Real creepy.
Have you ever had a house like that or a place where you're like, man, this is just fucking creepy? Like, I don't ever want to come back here. Or have you ever been told about a place like that?
No, the creepiest place I ever went to, and it was pretty fucking creepy, was the old Primary Children's
Hospital
before it got torn down. Because they had built a new Primary Children's Hospital, and that was its own thing. But the old one was just there as this abandoned building. I may or may not have gone with some friends there.
Yeah.
It was pretty creepy.
Yeah.
We didn't go very far in. We went in, but not not long before we left.
No.
So yeah, it was pretty spooky. I did have another friend that went there. Not a friend at the time. Much later in life, I had a friend that I talked to. Oh yeah, I went there too. He's like, we went, we got in. He's like, and we were like creeping around, and we heard like footsteps, so we ran and left. He's like, and as we were driving away, we looked back, and it looked like there was a light on in one of the rooms.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like an abandoned building, power cut and everything.
This is not this isn't even a building. Like, this is like very dilapidated. Like
it was very run down.
Yeah. So it's just. Yeah, very creepy. Yeah. Very, very creepy place.
Me, I scare myself, which is the worst part about it, because I've talked about this before, like even like running upsters.
Yeah.
It's like,
especially grabby stairs.
Luckily, my parents' house didn't have grabby stairs that I had to worry about. The worst part was the bottom of the stairs instantly followed a turn.
Yeah.
It wasn't open up into a big room. So I always just pictured something, grabbing the door frame. Or coming shooting around that corner. So that's where my imagination would get the best of me. But even like, I'll give you an example of one that just happened like last week. I was taking out the garbage at 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's pretty dark here now. Thankfully tomorrow we get daylight savings back to normal.
Yeah.
But right now it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
And walking out, there's the fall.
Yeah, do you hear a dog barking in the distance?
There's the leaves. I heard a dog barking across the street. I live on a busy road.
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of cars going past.
So isn't that the classic thing, though, in a horror movie, is the dog barking in the distance?
Yep. But the leaves rustling, the leaves falling off the trees and everything like that. It was windy a little bit. I walked down, I threw it in, and I'm just like, this is where I turn around, and there's going to be someone standing right fucking there. Turn around, there's no one there, of course. And, of course, my apartment complex has the lights and strategic places and everything like that. I'm coming back around the corner to go back up, because I live on the second floor, going back upstairs. And, of course, the light under the stairs and down is flickering. And I'm just like, fuck me. Like, I scare myself with stuff like that.
Yeah.
The one that always got me, is I've done this to my wife, is that driving on an empty road scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Why does that? Because I'm worried there's a fucking beast in that field next to me. I'm not kidding. My imagination runs wild with me.
Yeah.
I'm driving along a road, even though I can see houses less than a mile away over to my right.
Yeah.
On my left is a fucking field leading to a fucking mountain. There's nothing between me and wilderness.
Yeah.
There's no trees. It's just a field. Still, I feel like just out of sight of my headlights, there's a fucking beast, loping along, following the pace of my car. Even though I'm going 60 or 65.
Yeah.
My imagination is the worst for me.
Yeah.
Have I ever been to like an abandoned haunted house or anything like that? No. Come to think of it now, it'd probably be very, very bad for me if I did.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely psych yourself out with that kind of stuff.
We should do an on-location video where you record my ass going into my first, like, haunted abandoned place.
Yeah, there's the old paper mill.
Is there?
Yeah, down kind of in the Mill Creek area. It's actually that's the filming location of that place, that, like, freaking thing in Halloween 6.
Oh, yeah.
Like that whole, like, creepy area with all the, like, druid people and stuff. Yeah, that's the old paper mill. And that place is allegedly pretty spooky. But they do all kinds of stuff to try to keep people out of there. They even go so far as to, like, grease the gates and stuff. So it's, like, hard to climb and stuff.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. That's a place that people try to get to.
There are places that are like, yeah, come here. We'll take you on a ghost tour and everything like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah, indeed. So down in subchapter 25, why don't you go ahead and hit your note here?
So we got Eddie in the ring now, holding his sharpened stick, drawing on the ground. Roland, watch out for her. I will if I can, Eddie. But keep it off me. Jake's coming. Crazy little mother's really coming. I wanted to highlight this one because I love Eddie here. This is showing growth. Before, it would have been a fight to the death with Roland about protecting Susanna. But now it's, hey, watch out for her, and Roland responds, but it almost is like he's interrupting how it's written here.
Yeah.
But Eddie understands that he has a job to do,
and
he's going to do it.
Yeah. I do have to point out a little bit earlier, I didn't highlight it, but a line from Susanna. Something's coming, she said tautly, coming fast.
Yeah.
So that just adds to it, too.
It's
whatever it is, it's bearing down on the location.
That's not a happy little thought. I don't...
Oh, I think it's a happy thought, certainly. So then, a little bit further down, it says, "Get ready," Roland said. "It'll go for Eddie. One of us will have to ambush it." Susanna reared up on her haunches like a snake coming out of a Hindu's Fakur's basket. Her hand rolled into a hard brown fist, were held at the side of her face. Her eyes blazed. "I'm ready," she said, then shouted, "Come on, big boy. You come right on now. Run like it's your birthday." The rain began to fall harder as the demon, which lived here, re-entered its circle in a booming rush. Susanna had just time to sense the thick, merciless masculinity. It came to her as an eye-watering smell of gin and juniper, and then it shot towards the center of the circle. She closed her eyes and reached for it, not with her arms or her mind, but with her female force that lived at the core of her. "Hey, big boy, where you going? The pussy be over here." Yeah, so
we get the answer. Was it a boy demon? Is it a girl demon?
Yeah, exactly.
Boy. So it's up to Susanna here to get it off Eddie.
Yeah,
it's going right for him.
Yeah. No sideways here. This is going straight for him.
Yeah. So after she yells, it whirled. She felt its surprise, and then its raw hunger, and full and urgent as a pulsing artery. It leaped upon her like a rapist springing from the mouth of an alley, which is not a happy analogy for King to use.
No, not at all. Not at all. Very, very upsetting for sure.
Yeah.
And then it goes on here. Susanna howled and rocked backwards, cord standing out in her neck. The dress she wore first flattened against her breasts and belly and then began to tear itself to shreds, which that's just a horrifying image too, because you can't really see it. So, like this shit, just like her clothes just cling to her more and then just start fucking, basically in my mind, just obliterating to like fucking, like almost confetti, like just being shredded up. She could hear pointless, directionless panting, as if the air itself had decided to rut with her. So yeah, very, very terrifying. And then Eddie yells to her, and then she screams, "No, do it! I got this sumbitch right where I want it." So Eddie does have his concern for her, but she says, "No, it's fine. Do your thing." So that's where that leaves us off. Definitely troubling stuff going on here. But what do you got next?
Eddie looks uncertainly at Roland, who nodded. Eddie glanced at Susanna again, his eyes full of dark pain and darker fear, and then deliberately turned his back on both of them and fell to his knees again. He reached forward with the sharpened stick, which had become a makeshift pencil, ignoring the cold rain falling on his arms and the back of his neck. The stick began to move, making lines and angles, creating a shape Roland knew at once. It was a door.
Oh yeah, and you gotta admit too, the rain would help that. Drawing in some muddy dirt versus just dry dirt make it easier for him to draw.
But it also could erase it.
Yeah, if you got it good and deep though, it'll take quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, very helpful this sinister rain.
The sinister rain.
So then, jumping over to subchapter 26, what do you got here to start off?
He walked slowly toward the house. This is talk about Jake, obviously. Heart telegraphing fast dots and dashes in his throat. I love that because I've had that before right here, in your throat where you're feeling your pulse. It's not often, but it does happen.
Yeah.
Weeds had grown up between the buckled bricks. He could hear them rustling against his blue jeans. All his senses seemed to have been turned up 2 notches. "You're not really going in there, are you?" a panic-stricken voice in his head asked. And the answer that occurred to him seemed both totally nuts and perfectly reasonable. All things serve the beam.
Yeah, indeed. And then it does point out there's some signs on the lawn, absolutely no trespassing under penalty of law. The yellow rust-stained square paper nailed to one of the boards crisscrossing the front door was even more succinct. By order of NYC Housing Authority, this property is condemned. So not necessarily anything I highlighted for a note, but definitely something I find interesting.
Yeah.
Because condemned, it's not just like, oh, hey, this place is off limits, no trespassing, but also condemned
means it's not safe.
Yeah, that implies there's some safety concerns here. Which, of course, if there's a monster between the worlds and stuff, this place is...
Yeah, that's why the New York City Housing Authority condemned it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, though, but like the reason they condemned it is going to be small potatoes compared to what actual dangers are going to be going on here. It's not like, oh, I accidentally stubbed my toe on a board that was pulled up or something. No, there's a lot more danger involved here. It says Jake paused at the foot of the steps, looking up at the door. He had heard voices in the vacant lot, and now he could hear them again. But this was a choir of the damned, a babble of insane threats, equally insane promises. Yet he thought it was all one voice, the voice of the house, the voice of some monstrous doorkeeper, roused from its long, unpeaceful sleep. So, yeah, very very sinister. King is the master of horror, certainly, and he does this kind of stuff better than anyone when it comes to just writing the most horrific shit. You know, like I said, even just like the whole Eddie's whole line there just felt like almost like a Poltergeist. They're here, you know, like that's just creepy. Like Eddie's line earlier was that way too. It's just, King does it. He's great at this. Nobody does it better.
Oh, absolutely. And to finish off the subchapter here, he thought briefly of his father's Ruger, even considered pulling it out of his pack. But what good would it do? Behind him, traffic passed back and forth on Reinhold Street, and a woman was yelling for her daughter to stop holding hands with that boy and bring in the wash. But there was another world, one ruled by some bleak being over whom guns could have no power. Be true, Jake. Stand. Okay, he said in a low, shaky voice. Okay, I'll try, but you better not drop me again. Slowly, he began to mount the porch steps. I loved the contrast here of, like there's a world there, and he even gives like an example that, mom starts yelling at her daughter to come in and everything. But I also
feels like two different worlds entirely.
Oh, entirely.
Right? Like the world that Jake is living in at that moment, and that mom yelling at a girl to stop holding. Like, dude, that's galaxies apart.
Yeah,
that's not even like the same realm of existence.
There's movies that do that really well, where you see something happening behind like glass, and the person on the other side of the glass has no idea that something's going on.
Scream 2 or 3.
Well, yeah,
3. Or 2. No, it's 2.
Two at the university where Courtney Cox is in the soundproof room. Yeah. She has no idea what's going on, and Dewey's on the other side getting stabbed.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of that. But also one thing I wanted to point out here, I love that Jake has the logic to know that the gun ain't going to do shit.
Yeah, exactly.
How many adults do we see make that mistake? Like, oh, what's that? This thing can only be killed by the thunderbolt of Zeus? Okay, well, let me just take my AR-15 with me and pop, pop, pop. This might do something. Pop, pop, pop.
Did you see that meme of that lady in Halloween Kills that had an iron?
Yes.
Like this little woman, she's like not a big imposing figure. That's like, dude, Michael Myers, like he had like firefighters. These are like dudes that are like carrying like 200-pound like like saws and
jaws of life, shit.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And he just like butchers them all. Like this little tiny petite lady has got a freaking iron. It's like, what do you think you're gonna do, lady?
There was a clip that came up on YouTube because I watched the Halloween Kills, How It Should Have Ended on there, and there was one from Robot Chicken where they put the Laurie's house from Halloween 2018 next to Kevin McAllister's from Home Alone.
Yeah,
he's like, oh, I'm all alone. So they cross paths. So the wet bandits go into Laurie's house, and Michael Myers, he's walking through, like he gets hit with the paint can, he just walks through like nothing happens. And Kevin's like, oh shit. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but no, I definitely agree with you there. Like when you have that disconnect, that's always a fun. It's always a fun.
Godzilla. That's the one that really popped into my head with this note. Is like, oh, we got these monsters that are like, like ancient beings and stuff like that. Okay, well, let's go out there with our rifles and shoot at it.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're wasting bullets at this point. Like, do something else.
Yeah, indeed. So then moving into subchapter 27, this will be our last one. And then that pretty much splits us to where I know we're going to be kind of leaving on kind of a cliffhanger, but it puts it in a way to where with another episode of this same length, we'll finish this whole section up and be ready to move 2022 with a fresh
book,
chapter.
Book, whatever you want to call
it. Whatever it's called. The one called Lud. We'll be starting that next year. So let's jump into subchapter 27 here.
Good number, 27.
Wait, what?
My birthday.
Oh, okay. I mean, you said 19. That's my birthday, so of course that's a good one.
Exactly.
27th. I'm like,
that's my birthday, jerk.
Yeah.
Oh wow. God. Wow. I see how it is. Hashtag Ted is terrible.
There we go. I figured
2 in 1 episode.
Figured that was coming. And then Alan showed up. Hi, Alan. Thanks for joining us. We're just getting here in our last subchapter here for the book club. So let me, you have the first note here in subchapter 27.
So he goes in, and a hollow sound came through the door. The sound. Oh no, wait, has he gone in yet? I'm losing my spot here. Hold on.
No, he's not yet.
Okay, he's on the porch. That's right.
Yeah.
A hollow sound came through the door. The sound of some animal slobbering hungrily from deep inside a concrete pipe. No. No.
A slobbery, hungry animal.
No. Inside a concrete pipe. What is with him and concrete pipes, too? Stephen King, what's with him and concrete pipes?
Yeah.
Again, on my list of things that they're like, hey, go check out that concrete pipe. I'd be like, no. No. Jake felt a sick sheen of sweat begin to break out on his cheeks and forehead. He was so frightened that he no longer felt precisely real. He seemed to have become a character in someone else's bad dream. The evil choir, the evil presence, was behind this door. The sound of it seeped out like syrup. He yanked on the lower boards. They came freely. Of course, it wants me to come in. It's hungry, and I'm supposed to be the main course. If I ever have that thought, I'm fucking running away. Oh, this beast wants me to step outside my cabin. Okay, then I'm staying inside. No.
Oh, man.
God.
It's so good. Oh, man. I got to figure out a way to get you and Hayden together to go see Antlers.
No.
Speaking of...
No.
Hey, as much as it might be scary for you, watching a horror movie with Hayden's always fun.
It is fun, but the problem is that it's not going to be Hayden. It's going to be me and Hayden because it's a beastie film.
Double the fun for me.
Put you in the middle, me and Hayden on either side.
I mean, why not? Sounds like fun.
No.
Okay, and then it goes on here. A snatch of poetry occurred to him suddenly, something that Ms. Avery had read to them. It was supposed to be about the plight of the modern man who was cut off from all of his roots and traditions. But to Jake, it suddenly seemed that the man who had written that poem must have seen this house. And then in italics, it says here, I will show you something different from either your shadow in the morning striding behind you or your shadow in the evening rising to meet you. I will show you. And then Jake speaks here. He says, I'll show you fear and a handful of dust, Jake muttered, and put his hand on the doorknob. And so I'll just pause here before I finish my note and say this is obviously a T.S. Eliot. I mean, not obviously, but it is T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, which is where the title of this book comes from, is that poem from Mr. Eliot. And then also that's the subtitle of this chapter, right? Fear and a handful of dust. Yeah. So kind of some connections there. Then it says, as he did, the clear sense of relief and surety flooded him again. The feeling that this was it, that this time the door would open on the other world and he would see sky untouched by smog and industrial smoke. And on the far horizon, not mountains, but hazy blue spires of some gorgeous unknown city. So this almost feels like like this is just Jake now hoping that this door is going to open into Roland's world. Because how much easier would that be for him than to have to deal with whatever might be in this place? So, but probably not going to happen. Hopefully, in my mind, I remember reading this going, I think the door is coming that you're hoping for, Jake, but I don't think this is the one.
Yeah.
This is all building too much that this isn't just going to be some magical open the front door and you immediately are looking at like Eddie on the other side. Like that's not going to happen, man.
Well, he already has said several times that he has to go in.
Yeah, exactly.
Not open the front door and step through to another world.
Yeah.
He has to go into the house.
Yeah, you got to go in. That hungry presence on the inside.
Slobbering beast.
Oh, what do you got next?
So my note here is actually split into two, but I'm actually just going to read the whole thing, even with the part in the middle. I realize I should have just highlighted the whole thing.
Okay.
To the left, a staircase pitched, and so now he stepped into the house. To the left, a staircase pitched.
One second. Oh. Just before your note, though, it says the smell of some beast's lair. I have to point that out. But go on.
To the left, a staircase pitched and yawed its crazy way into the upper shadows. Its collapsed banister lay splintering on the hallway floor. But Jake was not foolish enough to think it was just splinters he was looking at. There were bones in that litter as well. The bones of small animals. Some did not look precisely like animal bones, and these Jake could not look at over long. He knew he would never summon the courage to go further if he did. He paused on the threshold, screwing himself up to take the first step. He heard a faint muffled sound, very hard and very rapid, and realized it was his own teeth chattering in his head. Why doesn't someone stop me? He thought wildly. Why doesn't someone passing on the sidewalk shout, "Hey you, you're not supposed to be in there. Can't you read?" But he knew why. Pedestrians stuck mostly to the other side of the street, and those who came near the house did not linger. Even if someone did happen to look, they wouldn't see me because I'm not really here. For better or worse, I've already left my world behind. I've started to cross over. His world is somewhere ahead. This was the hell between.
Yes, very sinister, indeed. Yeah, and also I love the bones because it reflects what we saw on the where they're out on Roland's side.
It's mirror.
It's mirroring. Yeah, like there's certainly I mean, there is a beast between, but there's also the demon and then God knows what inside the house itself, if the demon's between, and maybe in the house is between, so that's where this monster that Eddie's talking about is. But yeah, with bones there makes you certainly know that this whatever is there in this beast's lair is a hungry one.
Beast.
So
stop saying beast. I don't like it.
Then the last bit here, it says Jake stepped in the corridor, and although he screamed when the door swung shut behind him with the sound of a mausoleum door being slammed, he wasn't surprised. Deep down, he wasn't surprised at all. And so that's just the perfect coup de grace to the whole thing, is the door slamming shut behind him. That's like the classic thing in any horror movie, right? You go into a place you're not supposed to be, potentially a haunted place, and the door shuts behind you.
It always makes makes part of the group scream.
Yeah, exactly. Or and separates the person that's in dire trouble from whatever help might be. So so that's where we're going to leave it off. And that actually is a pretty good spot, though, as the door closes behind Jake. It's a good place to leave off until a couple episodes from now when we come back and finish this whole section off here. So that's what we are going to be doing. I think I lost the calendar here. I did close it. So for this episode, we will be closing up shop we will be back on the 4th of December for Book Club 112. We have a roundtable in between then, but to finish up this section, we'll be back on the 4th of December, and that'll be a lot of fun. And then, roundtable 113 in a fortnight. So let's go ahead and close up shop.
Whoa. We got our spoiler discussion still.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
We gotta discuss.
My problem is I generally drive off the book here with the highlights and notes. Yeah. So that's my biggest problem. So yes, let's first go to the spoiler discussion. So if you're not finished with the whole series, this is the point that you want to turn this episode off. And then just maybe when you finish the whole series, if you want to come back and listen to these discussions, you can. If not, though, that's fine. But yeah, if you have not finished the last word of the 7th book, you want to stop listening now.
Cry off.
And yes, cry off and join us next time on the 4th of December. And we'll be back to continue talking.
Mm-hmm.
So spoilers ahead. Now that is clear, we are talking about the spoiler sections of what we touched on in this one. The first one I have was basically it's the first thing. This is the first appearance of the God drums for Ludd. We don't really know. We don't know what it is yet at this point of reading. And honestly, I think I probably forget this every time that we actually hear them this early.
Yeah.
We're not.
I always picture it with Eddie and Jake talking.
Yeah, and like as you get into the next section and stuff. So to the fact that it actually shows up here, it's kind of one of those things, like I think because everything else that's going on, it's easy to just kind of to lose it quickly, where it's just like, oh shit, what the hell was that? But then you just move on because like obviously there's a lot of crazy shit going on. And then later when the God drums become more of a prevalent story point, it's easy to not remember that. Oh yeah, back when they were at the door and the speaking ring, it's the demons area. Oh, you messing up the notes here? Oh no,
I'm trying to get it to where you can see it because it was on the next page.
So, yeah.
I didn't want it to get missed. I added it while we were in the middle of the episode.
Oh, okay. I'll. Okay, so yes.
There we go.
Yeah, so it's easy to overlook it, but I do find it interesting that as the next section, the next chapter, which is titled Ludd, we obviously know that the God drums are going to be huge. Just to know that King was kind of teasing them here is pretty cool, and easily something that I would have overlooked. Like if I would have been asked a trivia question of, what section of this book did the God drums first show up, I wouldn't have guessed this section.
Yeah.
I totally would have overlooked it.
Have we ever thought about making a Dark Tower test?
I've actually been gathering some stuff.
Have you now?
Yeah, I don't have a ton, but I've been so I'm also gathering them because I want it to, like, I can do some easy stuff, but I'm trying to gather ones of like, if we're doing a Jeopardy type thing, what are the $1,000 questions? What are the ones that are going to be tough?
Yeah.
Trivial Pursuit. What are the really hard questions? Like, those are the ones I'm gathering. I have been for a bit. It's not a little bit in the book clubs here, but what I really am hoping, or what I'm waiting for, is next time I go through the series, I'm going to be really cognizant, because I thought of it right as I finished the series last time, my last read through. So I didn't have a lot. I think it was actually
at the tail end.
I was in book 6 or 7 when I thought of it. So yeah, I do have one. It's called Trivia. I actually added a piece of trivia today, as a matter of fact, during this book club. So yeah, I don't have many. I only have 4 questions right now, but
Alan wants to know if it's going to be a competition.
Yes, I think so. I don't think it's going to be ready for this year's year-end bash, but I do think that
sometime next year?
Probably next year. If not next year's year-end bash, may be a great time for it. To have like a big...
Dropping a bomb here on a book club. I love it. I didn't even know about this. So
yeah, no, I've kept it quiet.
I think
certainly.
we talked once about doing this like years ago, or maybe it was just months ago. I remember us talking about, wouldn't it be fun to kind of host like a trivia thing?
Yeah.
But you didn't say anything about starting to accumulate questions or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Like, for instance, I won't even give the answer here, but I'll give you one that kind of...
Want me to zip my lip?
I don't even know if you'll know it.
Okay.
Because it's tough, man.
Okay.
What does Roland call the slow mutant in Maine? He gives a name to one of the mutants.
Oh, shit.
So I'm not even going to answer it. If somebody in the chat has it, you could throw it out there. And maybe, I mean, luckily we're so far away from this actually happening. I won't worry about the fact that I just use it. But I'm just saying that shows you the level that I'm looking at here. I'm not looking.
I got to do some studying.
Yeah. I want to like balance it.
Wait, is it a name or is it a child erotic?
Yes. And Alan got it too.
Alan, give me a high five. There we go.
So, but again, that's not like what fingers did Roland lose? Like, those are like $100 questions. You know, like I need to, but I want to go because I think like the easy ones I can just fill in myself. I can just like sit down in an afternoon and start thinking like, okay, what are some cool trivia questions that aren't too terribly hard? But it's
what kind of bird was Zoltan?
It's the ones that are like that like are going to be really like tough and esoteric, that like those are the ones I need to be going through the book and be able to like hit something and go, shit, that'd be a good one, and then pause it and then actually
make
the note. So that's what I'm going to do on my next read through, which is probably coming up actually.
Oh, is it?
I just finished The Talisman. So
what'd you think?
I enjoyed it.
Good.
I loved it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, but yes, trivia.
One of the very few times that King has a character named Peter that's not a bad guy. It almost seems like every time he has a character named Peter, it's always bad. I'm just like, God damn it, stop making me a bad guy.
Pete Salbers is, I mean, he doesn't do the right thing necessarily, but he's not a bad kid. He's not a bad kid. Don't be throwing shade at him. And then isn't Hodges' partner named Pete as well?
Yeah, but he's a dumbass.
No.
Yeah.
No, he just isn't following Hodges' freaking obsessions and
dumbass.
No. Oh, so yes, Dark Tower trivia is coming for sure. But yes, God Drums. That maybe that'd be one. When's the first time the God Drums show up? I don't know if that would be a medium level one, but
yeah.
And then the next note I had. Oh wait, did I? Oh, yeah. When Jake is imagining Roland's world at the Dutch Hill front door, he imagines, quote, hazy blue spires of some gorgeous unknown city. So, again, we know that's going to be Lud.
Yeah. I caught that right there at the end when we were going over that note again. Yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck. He doesn't see this city. How does he know about that?
Yeah, exactly. So he's seeing a vision of it. Also, when they do hear the God Drums, Susanna says a heartbeat in the city that we're headed to, basically. So she connects the city as well. So they're kind of having some...
Well, they saw the city already.
Yeah.
Roland, Suzanne, and everything. Because remember, they had the freak out about whether or not it was New York.
Oh, yeah.
We already had that already. So Suzanne is saying it's, sounds like a, mechanical in the middle of a city. It's not.
No, she's
new.
the heartbeat.
Yeah.
She says it's the heartbeat.
It says mechanical, though.
No, mechanical's Eddie's. Eddie thinks it's machinery. Roland thinks it's drums, and Susanna thinks it's a heart.
Yeah, but a mechanical heart of a city is what she says, isn't it?
No.
Oh.
She says a heart, a diseased heart. in the city that lays before us, or something like that.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
No, I just find it. So I do find it fascinating that, like, not only the god drums, but also, and I know this is all in the same book, so it's not like it's this masterful thing that King's like spreading over, like what's going to be the next book years from now.
Yeah.
No, this is the same book, but still, he's throwing in some breadcrumbs that will eventually lead us to the god drums and Ludd. With Jake especially, has no comprehension of what's coming before him with Ludd.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting. But that's the notes I had.
The one note that I had is something that came up with what you were saying. Hasn't Roland told the story of Old Star already? Involving, like, Lydia. I always remember that because that's my wife's name.
I don't remember there's the backstory yet. I don't remember when that's told.
Yeah,
but I know that, like, the Old Star Old Mother have been
they've been referenced before, but the story specifically is what I'm talking about. When does Roland tell them that story of, Apom and what's the other, the original, the old mother's name, and then Lydia's the one that comes in between.
Yeah.
What is when does he tell that story? I thought it was to Eddie and Susanna, not to all three of them, but I might be misremembering that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was just trying to Google it real quick, but I don't know if anything's like, I see everything saying mentioned in the Wastelands. So maybe we've already. Yeah. But again, it's only saying mentioned, so that could be mentioned anywhere. I don't know if it's the actual whole story or not. I'd have to look into it. But yeah, it's definitely a good question. It's easy to that is the hard part with the book clubs, is trying to remember what has or hasn't been.
Do you still have your Kindle pulled up? I accidentally closed mine.
Yeah.
Just search the word Lydia. I bet you that'll be the fastest way to find it.
Yeah, we've already covered it, actually.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. I was thinking that it was just him and Eddie and Susanna that he tells that story. But I didn't want to talk about it if it was something that was coming up.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about, differentiating between his world and our world, that it is different.
Yeah.
And when he tells that story...
so we're, according to them, Kindle, we're on page 318, and that's on page 49, 50, 50, 50. So... yeah, that was quite a ways
back. Yeah.
Okay. It's easy for me to lose sight of that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But
that was probably like August or July when we were covering that.
Probably
somewhere back there.
And then it's just hard for me sometimes, because I get blurs about, okay, is that something we covered in here, or is that just something
that's exactly why I wrote it down, is I could not remember, and I did not want to give away something in a book club.
Yeah.
That was coming up in next episode or the episode after that.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to talk about it in the spoiler section, which is perfect. This is the reason why we have the spoiler section.
Yeah.
And this, also the spoiler section can be influenced by the chat. So if the chat has something that they want to talk about, this is where you bring it up with us.
Yeah.
Especially about the parts that we just read. So this is the great thing about this.
Yeah. Indeed. So that is the spoiler section for this episode. So then now that I'm not jumping the gun here, we can jump to the closing to give out the closing information and then close up shop here. So first off, if you want to subscribe, rate, and review us, you can do that on any podcasting service. You can stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. You can also find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. Find the questions for new listeners. And then as well as you can see a bunch of stuff for all of our previous episodes and stuff. Also, we have our open challenges thing there as well. I still haven't updated that. Actually, I was supposed to, but I haven't done that yet. I need to remind myself to go through and do that. The next, and in fact, I should probably do that soon, because I think we actually have one coming up next episode.
Oh, do we?
We have the what is it called? The non-copyrighted stuff, public domain. What public domain stuff would you like King to cover?
Oh, I need to go do that.
So that's coming up. I'll make sure to post that on there. And then if you want to become a Patreon supporter, you can do that over at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. And then if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. You can also follow our show. It's here on YouTube. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Make sure to subscribe, like the videos, and then also ring the bell to get notifications. And then our social media is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Our Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And then Instagram is darktowerpalaver. That's all one word together. And then check out our merchandise. We got the 2 designs, #TatIsTerrible, and the original logo with just Dark Tower Palaver.
Not the original logo.
Our
real name, our logo now.
It has both of them have the logo.
Yeah,
and then you have the #TatIsTerrible and Dark Tower Palaver are the 2 designs that we have up, and you can get any number of different types of merchandise there. Check it out. It's tpublic.com/user/Dark Tower Palaver.
Indeed. So yeah, we will. Like I said, we'll be back in a fortnight for Roundtable 113. In that episode, we'll do the Stephen King public domain things that we'd like to see him. What would we like to do if he actually were to do some?
Yeah.
And then we'll be back for book club number 12 on the 4th of December, and then December 18th for Roundtable 114, which is our year-end bash, and that will close out 2021. And before next episode, we'll make sure to get our calendar locked down for 2022, so we can start to let you guys know what that year looks like and when we're going to start back up and stuff. We always just got to figure out how to get it lined up, because there is a way to line it up to our show doesn't really fall on any
it literally misses my wife and I's anniversary, misses 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, it lines up perfectly, all of that. So
yeah, we just got to figure out how that works.
Yep.
As soon as we get that figured out, we'll make sure to let you guys know, so that we can make you guys aware of how 2022 is going to start. So we will sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, you guys in the chat, thank you guys for joining us. It's always fun to have you guys listening along with us. And yeah, I guess a little surprise that trivia is in the works.
That's even a bombshell you dropped on me.
That should be fun. Yeah, because honestly, this episode, when I grabbed something while we were doing this reading for this book club that I was like, oh, that'd be a good trivia question. That's the first time I've opened it in ages. So probably since I was in book 7 was the last time that I grabbed some things. But yeah, next time I do a full read through, which is probably coming soon, I'm gonna make it a point to be a little bit more not listen while I'm driving, because if I'm listening while I drive, it's hard to take notes, or if I do, I'll pause it and then just not listen the rest of my drive so I can get home and get the trivia taken down. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think I don't know how far or how deep it'll go, in terms of how many questions. I'm gonna try as hard as I can to make it not only formidable but also plenty of questions.
I like it.
My thought was always Jeopardy type, but I think we can go maybe even more Trivial Pursuit level, in terms of more questions.
Interesting.
So should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you guys in a couple weeks.
And if you're still here again, Cody, happy anniversary.
Yeah,
we're loving you being a part of the content with us.
Indeed. I know that from the messaging, they are glamping.
So, are they?
Yeah.
Nice.
So they were earlier today, so I don't know if they still are or not. So, because again, I was coordinating with his wife, trying to figure out is he going to listen and stuff?
Yeah.
So yeah. So happy anniversary to Cody on that. And we will see you guys in a couple weeks for a roundtable, which will be a lot of fun. Catch up on some news, and then do the old King.
Free domain stuff.
Public domain. That should be a lot of fun. I'll figure out how many beast things I can find in the public domain. So with that, though, I'll sign off as we always do. See you guys.
Bye, everyone.